Episode 461. None of Your Business. Bruce considered Dario's words. Jade was indeed kind and good, yet he had taken that kindness, spurned it, and turned his back on her. He really regretted that now. Talking to Dario had shaken him, and he wasn't sure what to think anymore. He turned to go back to the house and saw Ivana approaching. She must have come out to look for him. Dario was at the door about to go in. He glanced at them and spoke quietly, but loud enough for them both to hear. "Bruce, Jade's my wife now. Don't even think about it, or I'll make your life hell." Ivana's face fell, and she directed an angry stare at Bruce. "I'm already unhappy, and now Dario is warning my husband to stay away from Jade?" she thought, confused. What does he mean? Is Bruce trying to get her back? I'm a respectable member of the Winslet family, but he's being unfaithful? Really? Dario smiled and continued in a casual tone. "Mrs. Stevens, you'd better keep a close eye on your husband. Don't let him stare at other people's partners. Or are you the tolerant type? If so, then pretend you didn't hear this." Then he returned inside to be with Jade. His throwaway remarks threw Ivana into a rage. Because Dario trusted Jade, nothing Bruce said could provoke him. But she was different. She started toward Bruce, but before she could cause a scene, she realized that John and Suzanne would find out, so she held back. Bruce made no move to apologize or explain, which incensed her even more. It had been the same at the foster villa. He had kept ogling Jade. Seeing that he was about to leave, Ivana hurried forward and gave his arm a sharp pinch. "What's going on? What about me?" she hissed. "Jade's the kind of tramp who uses men to get what she wants. Are you blind?" "This has nothing to do with you." He frowned and pushed her away as if he couldn't bear her touch. "Nothing to do with me? Bruce, you're my husband. Don't try to pull the wool over my eyes. I know you've gone to Jade behind my back several times. I've put up with you for ages. Why are you treating me like this? Don't forget we're married." Ivana's repeated reminders annoyed Bruce even more. Yes, he was already married to this woman, but actually, he was starting to regret it. Glancing coldly at her, he said, "Ivana, I advise you to stop meddling. You wanted to be Mrs. Stevens, and you've achieved your goal. If you don't stay out of my business, you can't blame me for the consequences." His heartless words were like a knife in her heart. Is this really the man who once swore eternal love to me? She thought. She had never imagined him to be such a two-faced liar. Seeing him turn away, she pulled him back in panic with tears in her eyes. "Bruce, why are you doing this to me? Ever since we got married, you've been spending less and less time at home. You said you'd love me for the rest of your life. Do you know how lonely I am? Why can't you spend some time with me?" She knew her behavior was pitiful, and she couldn't stand the way Bruce looked at her. She'd always imagined how everyone would envy her for marrying him, and had never dreamed that things would turn out like this. Her husband used to sleep in the same bed as her, but after they got married, he had started avoiding her, always saying that he was busy with work. Many nights she had lain there alone, unable to sleep, feeling empty inside. "I'm sick of this," she thought. "I don't care that we never even had a fancy wedding. I just want him to be nice to me, but now I have nothing." The look of resentment on Ivana's face disgusted Bruce. He withdrew his hand and said impatiently, "How many times do I have to tell you? Leave me alone. If you don't want to be Mrs. Stevens anymore, then step aside. There are plenty of others who'd love to marry me. Now get out of my way." After saying that, he mercilessly pushed her aside and walked toward the house with a sullen look on his face. Ivana stood rooted to the spot and watched him go. How could he say that? There are plenty of others who'd love to marry me. She wondered in disbelief. What does he mean? She thought. Does he want to divorce me? I hate him, and I hate myself for marrying him. Other than my title, I've got nothing left. Other people think everything's so happy and bright between us, but they don't know my life's full of sadness and bitterness. It's not the life I dreamed of. By the time Bruce had returned to the dining room, with Ivana following behind, Dario and Jade were trying to leave while Suzanne and John were trying to persuade them to stay longer. Suzanne stepped forward to take Jade's hand in a show of intimacy, but Jade quietly rebuffed her. Suzanne smiled awkwardly and said, "Don't work too hard. Come back here for a meal when you have time. And if you want to stay, I've kept your room just the same as before. By the way, when did you and Dario get engaged? You must send us invitations to the wedding." "Yes, Jade," said John. "You must treat Dario well. We're looking forward to the wedding." It would be the wedding of the year, and he didn't want to miss out on any reflected glory. Episode 462. Abandoned. Ivana was furious. Her parents had never expressed this kind of enthusiasm about attending her own wedding. Bruce was more upset by the way Dario and Jade were holding hands. Their show of affection made him sick. Most hurtful of all was that Jade didn't even give him a second glance. He hated being ignored. Dario finally lost his patience and pulled Jade toward the door. "Don't worry, everyone," he announced. "Our wedding will be the talk of America. Even if you don't get an invite, you'll certainly hear about it." And with this, he ushered Jade away, as though he couldn't bear to stay a moment longer. Bruce was crushed. Jade hadn't even looked at him. In the past, she'd only had eyes for him, but now it was though he didn't exist. Just as Dario and Jade were about to get into their car, John gave Tyler a kick and said, "What are you still standing there for, brat? Hurry up and open the door for your cousin." Tyler glared at him. He resented the order, but he did as he was told. Just as he was about to open the door for Jade, Dario stepped in front of him and opened the door himself. He even fastened her seatbelt and gently closed the door afterward like a real gentleman. And then he simply drove off. After they had gone, Tyler spat on the spot where Dario's car had been parked. He gave his parents an angry look and swore. "Dad," he said, "you went too far this time. In front of an outsider too, you beat me, you told me off, you even made me kneel down." "Enough, you piece of trash," shouted John. "How dare you talk to me like that? I wouldn't have had to do that if you hadn't caused so much trouble. I'm telling you from today onward, don't even think about getting a single cent from us. If you want money, you'll have to earn it yourself." He had been so worried about his son in the past. But what was the point of having a son like him who offended Dario that way? Bruce, who was still feeling ignored, just looked on coldly. He remembered how the Winslets used to curry favor with him because he was a rich young man. But now that Jade had found someone more important, they acted as if he didn't exist and sucked up to Dario instead. He was so disgusted that he felt he couldn't stay a second longer. It was time to get out of there, and he wasn't going to wait for Ivana. When she saw him driving off without her, she panicked and chased after him, yelling, "Bruce, wait for me." It was obvious that Bruce had seen her chasing after him in the rearview mirror. But instead of slowing down, he sped up. Ivana was wearing high heels, and after chasing him a few steps, she stumbled and fell. At that moment, she realized that Bruce didn't love her at all. Her blood boiled. After getting his hooks into her, he had simply abandoned her. "He's a heartless bastard. He always thinks that the grass is greener somewhere else," she muttered under her breath. "Ivana, what are you doing? Is that appropriate behavior?" Suzanne saw her daughter fall and quickly went to help her, but Ivana fiercely pushed her away. Her eyes were full of tears. "I'm still your daughter, you know. I saw the way you were sucking up to Jade. How can you be so disgusting? It's because of you that Bruce stormed off. What am I supposed to do now he's gone?" She collapsed to the ground and burst into tears. At that moment, she hated her parents. Suzanne's heart ached to see her daughter like this, and she tried again to comfort her. There, stop crying. Can't you see that we can't afford to offend Dario? What choice do we have? Go away. I don't want to see you, all of you. Go away," she said, sobbing. In the end, Suzanne had no choice but to forcefully drag Ivana back to the house with the help of her brother. "Don't cry. What else can we do? Bruce has already left. Stay here for the night. If he doesn't come back to pick you up, then we'll talk about it in the morning." Suzanne frowned. The way Bruce had abandoned her daughter like that was utterly disgraceful. In comparison, Dario was the very model of a gentleman. Alone in her bedroom, Ivana wiped away her tears. What should I do? She wondered. Should I appeal to the Stevens family? That would be too embarrassing. But if Bruce doesn't come to pick me up tomorrow, should I go back to him or not? The way Bruce had left her so ruthlessly filled her with despair. She took a shower and then spent the evening clinging to her phone, hoping for a miracle. She wondered whether Bruce would message her or call her. Ivana hung on for 2 hours, but in the end, she could bear it no longer. She decided to ask Bruce what was going on, but he wouldn't answer her call. The final time she tried, his phone was turned off. He clearly didn't want to talk to her. That was the final straw. Seething inside, she hurled her phone to the ground and smashed it. "Bruce, I hate you," she yelled. "Why did you do this to me? I hate you. Jade, it's all because of you, you tramp. All of you, get lost." After Bruce left the Winslets, he drove around the city like a maniac. After a while, he headed to a high-end strip club that he knew about. But no matter how beautiful and seductive the women in front of him were, he only saw Jade. No matter how much he drank, he couldn't get her out of his head. 5 years, he thought. We were together for 5 years, and she was so good to me too. What have I done? Dario said she's never truly fallen in love with me. Is that possible? Episode 463. Tell me the truth. Oh, Jade, Bruce thought. If you never really loved me, how could you have spent so much time with me? I'm sure you must still have me in your heart. I don't believe you've really fallen in love with Dario. You're mine, and you'll always be mine. He slugged another whiskey. One shot after another, he was drinking himself into a stupor. When Dario and Jade got home, Dario ran her a hot bath. He would have bathed her too, but he stepped out to take a phone call. Jade was relieved. Although she was very grateful for what he had done for her that day, she still felt shy around him sometimes. She locked the bathroom door and then lay back happily in the water. In the bedroom, Dario was listening to Lucas's report. Bruce left Ivana at the Winslets, and then he went to a strip joint and booked a private room. Dario smirked. Tell the press. Immediately. Yes, sir. When Dario saw Jade emerging from the bathroom with her hair wrapped in a towel and wearing sexy lace pajamas, he was entranced and swept her into his arms. Let me help you dry your hair, he murmured, taking the towel from her. No need. You've had a long day. Go brush your teeth. I'll go after I've done your hair. Ignoring her protestations, Dario gently used the hairdryer to dry her hair and then went to take a shower. Meanwhile, Jade lay down and started to read her script for the following day's shoot. About 15 minutes later, Dario came out of the bathroom and got into bed naked. Jade was so focused on reading her script that she didn't notice anything unusual. Dario grabbed her script and tossed it aside. Hey, what are you doing? He pressed his body against hers. What's the matter? He said, putting on his most charming voice. Is the script better than mine? Of course not, but I have to work, Jade smiled. She found it amusing that Dario was actually jealous of her script. Keeping me company is also your job as a wife. He kissed her lips, but his eyes betrayed him. Jade noticed there was something wrong and frowned. She asked him cautiously, What's up? Don't you think you owe me an explanation? He held her chin and stared into her eyes. What? I owe you an explanation? I don't understand what you're talking about. Dario tucked a loose strand of her hair behind her ear. Why were you with Bruce back then? How did you meet him? The fact was, he couldn't understand what Jade could have seen in a scoundrel like Bruce. And they were from such different backgrounds too. How did they ever get to know each other? It was strange that she would want to spend 5 years with a man like him. There had to be a reason. Jade was surprised at the question. He had never asked her about her past before, nor about her ex-boyfriends. She avoided his gaze and said, Why are you suddenly asking me now? Did Bruce say something to you? When we were at the Winslets, she thought nervously. Dario and Bruce were alone together outside for a while. I know what Bruce is like. Could he have said something bad about me? Did Dario believe him? Tell me honestly, said Dario, staring into her eyes as if he could see the truth there. Why were you with him? Jade took a deep breath and looked at him hesitatingly. She had wanted to tell him about this a long time ago, but she hadn't known how to bring it up. She was afraid that he would get angry when he found out. Until recently, when Dario admitted to her that he had been the one to save her, she had always believed it had been Bruce. She thought Dario would be sad to realize this. Dario noticed her nervousness and sighed helplessly. He kissed her lips and then said gently, Don't be nervous. I just want to know the truth. No matter what you say, it won't change my opinion of you. You're still the woman I love. Trust me. Jade clung to his arm and said cautiously, Whatever I say, do you promise not to be angry? Silly, how could I bear to be angry with you? He stroked her nose lovingly, giving her confidence. The truth is, he told me he was the one who saved me. Jade found it difficult to continue. She had never imagined such coincidences could happen. She had lost the man who had lied to her for 5 years, but in the end, she had found a man who had pampered her every day. She felt she had gained much more than she had lost. So that's why you stayed with him for so long. You wanted to repay him for saving you. Now that he knew the truth, he was able to relax for a moment. He finally understood why the kind and innocent Jade had been with a man like Bruce. It was because he had lied to her. A cold glint came into his eyes. Jade was carefully observing his expression, afraid that he would be angry. Somewhat embarrassed, she said, At that time, I was unconscious. When I woke up, I saw him standing beside me. It's all my fault. I just assumed that he had saved me. You're not angry, are you? She gripped his hand. She looked so nervous that Dario's heart went out to her. She was worried that I'd get angry, he thought. I'd always felt there was something fishy going on. I didn't expect Bruce to be involved as well, but why did Bruce pretend to be me? Why did he lie to Jade and then keep up the pretense for 5 long years? That guy was no better than an animal. If I hadn't left 5 years ago, I'd have been with Jade a long time ago. Observing his silence, Jade quickly reached out to him and said sadly, "I'm sorry, it's all my fault. If I'd known it was you who saved me, but you were wearing the same mask and I was injured, I couldn't tell." When Dario saw her nervous look, his eyes softened. Episode 464. Love You Forever. "Jade, don't blame yourself," said Dario. "I don't blame you. Besides, you were injured so badly back then and I was wearing a mask. How could you have recognized me? It's all my fault. I should have taken you with me. You wouldn't have suffered so much." As he tenderly touched her cheeks, Jade felt even more guilty. How could I have been so stupid? She wondered. Bruce deceived me for 5 years and in the end he broke my heart. But luckily it's all over now. She hugged him, her moist eyes full of love. "You know something? I really thank the heavens for sending you to me. Thank you for being so good to me. Thank you for not abandoning me. It's not your fault. You were with Bruce because he lied to you. Don't tell me you really loved him." "Why, are you jealous? Why do you keep asking me about him?" Jade pretended to be relaxed, but she was secretly very nervous. 5 years ago, I was just an ignorant girl, she recalled, an adolescent who didn't know anything. Back then, I thought Bruce was my savior, so I felt I ought to be good to him and be grateful to him. In any case, Bruce didn't treat me badly. At that time, I was being bullied by the Winslet family and felt really lonely. Bruce came along when I was most vulnerable and comforted me, so I came to rely on him. Was that love? I treated him like family and never expected him to hurt me so badly. When Dario saw that she didn't answer, he felt a stabbing pain in his heart. When he thought that the woman he loved deeply had loved another man, he felt very uncomfortable. He reminded himself that her past was not important, the present and the future belonged to him. But when he thought about the happy times she had spent with Bruce, he felt jealous. He wanted to be the only man in Jade's world. I care too much. How can I not care?" A hint of pain flashed across his face. He rarely revealed his true thoughts to others and never let people see through him. But with Jade, he was different. He couldn't hide. This was the first time Jade saw the pain in his eyes, and it shocked her. She pulled him to her, feeling the warmth of his body. She said guiltily, "I'm really sorry. All right, don't say any more. It's because I care about you so much that I'm jealous of the guy who was with you for so long. In the future, you only belong with me, right?" He held her tightly, wrapping his arms around her and pressing his lips to hers, kissing her as though he wanted to eat her up. Jade didn't resist and responded passionately. She was moved by his love. She knew that her relationship with Bruce bothered him, but he didn't want her to feel guilty. He wanted to forget her past. Jade sighed and rested her head on his chest. Her fingers stroked his chin, and the movement aroused him. His throat grew dry, and his heart beat faster. As he was about to kiss her again, she said something that filled him with joy. "You know what? 5 years ago, Bruce told me that he saved me. I was so grateful to him. He treated me well. But later, when I found out that he was with my cousin, I hated him for cheating on me. He told me that he'd lied to me, and I completely gave up on him. When I met you, I realized that I didn't love Bruce, and I didn't feel sad anymore. Dario, when you pointed your gun at yourself the other day, I wanted to die instead of you. I was terrified that you'd leave me." Tears were running down her cheeks at the thought. "You were the first person I truly fell in love with. When I see you in pain, I also feel pain. I love you. I really love you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. As for him, what I gave him wasn't true love at all." Her passionate confession moved him deeply. This was the first time he had heard her speak so passionately. He drew her close to him. "Jade, you're the first woman I've ever fallen in love with. I'll love you forever." In the next second, they were kissing passionately. "I love you. I want you," he said. "My heart and body belong to you." For the first time, Jade took the initiative, taking off her clothes. Dario's breathing became heavier. With their naked bodies locked together, Jade seemed to have lost all her inhibitions. She responded to him enthusiastically and held nothing back. Her breathing grew heavy, and she moaned in pleasure, driving Dario wild. At midnight, in the private room at the strip club, Bruce was pouring 2 scantily clad women. He was drunk and not thinking clearly. All he knew was that it was going to be a wild night. Episode 465. Making the News. One of the women slipped off her dress, leaving only her underwear. She rubbed her hands along Bruce's arm and began to remove his clothes. "Mr. Stevens, allow us to take care of you today," she said suggestively. She was obviously very skilled in the art of seduction, and Bruce fell under her charm. He didn't resist as the two women kissed and stroked him and took care of his needs. Bruce didn't notice that the rest of the room had emptied as they kept him occupied. Outside the strip club, dozens of reporters were milling around. Inside, Bruce drank until he passed out. He was unaware that someone was watching them. Lucas frowned as he gazed at the three naked bodies. He glanced at the clock. Afraid that he might wake Jade if he called, he decided to text a message to Dario instead. As expected, Bruce was found having fun with two women in the room. The reporters are in place for the next step. Dario and Jade had showered and gone to bed. However, Dario hadn't yet fallen asleep when his phone pinged. He carefully scooted out of the bed and covered Jade's body with a blanket. When he read the message, his dark eyes glinted. "Tomorrow, I'll see Bruce in the headlines of all the major media," he thought. He smirked as he quickly replied to Lucas. In the shadows, the sharp contours of his face and his malicious smile made him look like a wolf. But when he gazed upon Jade as she slept, his expression turned tender, and he looked like a completely different person. When Lucas received Dario's reply, he quickly responded. Understood. Then he got to work. The reporters were anxious for a story and couldn't wait to get inside when Lucas opened the door. Bruce and the women worked to dozens of flashbulbs in their faces. At first, Bruce was only able to stare in a drunken stupor, unaware that he was naked. The two women screamed and began to quickly put on their clothes. Their cries brought Bruce back to reality. He hurriedly pushed the women aside and pulled on his pants. However, the photographers had already taken quite a few shots of him without them. "Damn it, I've been tricked," he thought. "These two must have been part of the scheme." The reporters swarmed in and shouted questions at him. "Mr. Stevens, you and your wife are newly married. What will she think of this? Mr. Stevens, are you and your wife having problems? Mr. Stevens, are you worried that your behaviour will hurt the public image of the Stevens Group?" Bruce's face was ashen. Once he was dressed, he looked around the room angrily. He grabbed an empty wine bottle from the table and smashed it on the floor. The reporters were shocked into silence. Some of them were brushing shards of glass from their clothing. They slowly moved away from Bruce. They hadn't expected that he would suddenly go crazy. He took advantage of the situation and rushed out to the street. There were even more reporters waiting for him outside the club, and they surrounded him, firing questions. Beyond the reporters was a crowd of curious onlookers. He struggled through the crowd and finally made it to his car. He tried to drive away, but the reporters seemed undaunted and rushed in front of the vehicle. Bruce revved the engine and glared at the horde furiously. He didn't care how many people were standing in front of him. When the reporters saw the car start to move forward, they finally got out of the way. Bruce had escaped, and the press stopped pursuing him. They already had the pictures they needed, more than enough for the following day's news. It didn't matter to them if the photos were accompanied by a statement from Bruce or not. Once he had left, the reporters looked at the photos they had just taken with disdain. They began to gossip. The Stevens family has accomplished a lot, but they sure can't stay out of the news. First, it's the scandal about the daughter, and now her brother gets caught fooling around. I wonder if it runs in the family. I'm pretty sure it must be the parents. The parents can't be any better if this is how they brought up their kids. You're right. I'll bet if we keep digging, we'll find even more explosive news, and it will probably involve the parents. Bruce's face was haggard as he drove haphazardly through the city. He paid no attention to the traffic lights and hit a number of cars along the way. He nearly ran someone over. Eventually, he became too exhausted to drive. He pulled over in a remote, deserted area and angrily smashed his fist into the window. His handsome face twisted into an ugly snarl. "Oh, damn it! Damn it!" he roared as he punched the car again and again. He didn't stop until his hand was covered in blood. The next day, Jade woke up early in the morning because she wanted to surprise Dario by making breakfast for him. When she woke up and found that he was still sleeping, she gave a sigh of relief and smiled. But as she tried to sneak from the bed, she felt herself being pulled back down. Dario wrapped his arms around her and pulled her to his chest. Jade was annoyed. How was she supposed to make him breakfast if he wouldn't let her out of bed? Dario gave her a sly smile and caressed her back. Remembering the previous night, she was afraid to look at him because they might start that scenario all over again. "Why are you up so early? Come on, sleep a little longer." Dario's voice was especially sexy and irresistible when he had just woken up. "I'm not sleeping in today. I need to get up. I'm due on the set later, but I wanted to make breakfast for you before I go," she told him. Dario raised his eyebrows. He kissed her softly. Then he gently whispered in her ear in this irresistible, husky morning voice, but there's only one thing I want for breakfast." As he spoke, Jade fell back on the bed and started to give in to him. Episode 466. The Good Life. The problem was that she had only slipped on a t-shirt before bed the night before. Since she wasn't wearing anything underneath, Dario had easy access to everything. She broke free from his embrace and pushed him away. "You're a sex maniac," she said. "I am absolutely a sex maniac," he admitted frankly. "Is that a problem?" He traced his finger up her leg and under the t-shirt. She knew that if she let it go any further, they might not ever leave the bedroom, and she had work to do. Jade fretfully pushed his hand away and said seriously, "Dario, stop messing around. I'm getting up. I still want to make you breakfast, then I'm going to work. So, what do you want to eat?" Dario acted as if he hadn't heard her and pulled her into his arms. He nibbled her ear and said softly, "Don't worry about work. You should rest this morning. Caroline already took you off the schedule. You can go in this afternoon." Jade became agitated when she heard this. "But Dario, I've already taken 2 weeks off. Do you want me to lose my job? You're such a big shot, you don't need to worry about showing up. But if I don't show up, they may decide they don't need me." She was worried about taking so much time off. Although the director hadn't said anything to her, she thought that he must be getting annoyed. When a leading actress repeatedly asks for time off, it affects everyone on the project. Jade had chosen to become an actress, and she was willing to suffer the consequences. Dario said, "But you worked so hard yesterday. Just take this morning off. Don't worry. With me around, who would dare to challenge your worth?" Jade knew that Dario had enough influence to make sure she stayed on the project, but she wanted to be valued on her own merits. She didn't want special treatment because of him. She decided to compromise. "Okay, I'll get some rest, but you have to let me make breakfast for you. Otherwise, I'll work overtime," she threatened. "Okay, it's a deal. I'll leave the breakfast for you, but you leave dinner to me. We can go shopping after breakfast," he suggested. Jade smiled when she pictured the two of them choosing ingredients together. It was a sweet image. Wasn't this the life she had always yearned for? Now she had a lovely life that included eating breakfast together, cooking together, and just being together. She was lucky to have met a man like Dario. Dario reluctantly let her go, but only after a long kiss. Jade prepared eggs, bacon, and toast. Although it was a simple meal, Dario was happy. Because his wife had made it, it was the most delicious breakfast in the world. After eating, he washed the dishes. As Jade was bored, she started to look at social media sites on her phone. Although she did this every morning, she didn't usually see people she knew in conjunction with explosive headlines. A headline in large print read, "Bruce Stevens caught cheating." Jade was stunned. She looked at the picture of Bruce with the 2 call girls. She hadn't expected that kind of behavior from Bruce. 2 women at the same time? My God, she thought. It gave her a whole new perspective. She couldn't believe she had actually dated him. Did he behave that way when we were together? She wondered. She was thankful they had broken up. Jade checked other sites. All of them showed headlines about Bruce. Bruce Stevens having sex behind wife's back. King Stevens and his 2 princesses. Stevens family in the news again. Cheating scandal. Jade looked at the comments below the articles. There were thousands of them, all berating the Stevens family. The Stevens family is disgusting. None of them have any moral integrity. They're a family of miscreants. First the older sister, then the younger brother. It makes me want to throw up. Jade didn't know why she laughed when she saw the news. For some reason, it made her happy. When Dario had finished washing the dishes, he picked up an apple and took a bite. He saw Jade holding the phone and laughing, and he asked, "What's so funny?" "Come see who's in the news," she said, pulling him over to join in the fun. She looked delighted. But Dario didn't need to see what she was looking at. He already knew. He glanced at her phone and sure enough, there was a photo of Bruce and the 2 women together, naked. Bruce's face was shown clearly. There was no denying that it was him. Now everyone in the world knew about the lewd siblings in the Stevens family. "Jade, I do believe you're gloating," Dario said, looking down at her. Watching her take pleasure in Bruce's misfortune, he felt relief. Apparently she no longer had any feelings for him. Jade put down her phone and hooked her arms around Dario's neck, grinning from ear to ear. "I don't want to hit someone when they're down, but he deserved it. Dario, thank you so much for finding me." She leaned against his chest and sighed contentedly. Jade tried to imagine what Ivana's face looked like at that moment. She must have been furious. Now she knew what it was like to be abandoned by a man. Jade had no sympathy for either Ivana or Bruce. They deserved it all. Ivana wasn't the only one who was having a fit. The Stevens group had also exploded early that morning. Bruce's father had been accosted by someone the moment he arrived at the company and was whisked away to an emergency board of directors meeting. The board was disgusted by the scandal. Along with their reputation, the company's stock prices had also fallen. Their value had plummeted worldwide just overnight. Their first incident with Amelia had finally calmed down. Who would have thought that another family scandal would occur so soon? The idea of ever regaining their reputation was hopeless. Of course, the Winslet family had also been inundated by reporters. They were all looking for Ivana. She had been sent a lot of photos earlier that morning. They were all pictures of Bruce and the women. Everyone wanted to know her reaction. Ivana's face turned stony when she saw the images. Then she exploded. "Dario, don't you need to go to work today? Why do you have so much free time?" Jade asked, looking up from the script she'd been reading as she leaned against him. Dario had been texting Lucas about the Stevens situation as he sat with Jade. Hearing her ask him a question, he put down his phone and quietly looked into her eyes. He smiled and told her, "Nothing is more important than you. I'm yours all day." "You need to stop spoiling me like this," Jade said. She was happier than she'd ever been. "I like spending the day with you. There's no one to distract you. You're all mine." Dario tapped her nose. Jade curled into his embrace contentedly. That afternoon, Jade hurried through the filming for scenes of Decadent Lady and then rushed to the King's Palace set in Los Angeles. Dario had offered her the use of his private plane to save time. Since Jade's role in Palace was more intensive, she had to take 2 more weeks off from the other films, which would set the filming back. Jade felt extremely guilty about it. She felt that those crews would be justified in treating her as public enemy number 1. Episode 467. I Believe in Him. Jade had thought that some of the people on the crew would be upset with her because of her time away, so she was surprised when the cast and directors seemed happy to see her. Caroline had told them that Jade had been in a car accident and had just been released from the hospital. Now they were all expressing their concern. No one was angry about the delay she'd caused. Although she was glad that they weren't angry, she was ready to work overtime to catch up. After saying hello to everyone, she headed toward the dressing room. She had just finished changing when she saw a familiar figure. It was Miranda. She looked like she'd been waiting a while. When she saw Jade, she came forward and said, "Miss Winslet." "Hi, Miranda, is something wrong?" Jade asked with a smile. Miranda didn't say anything, but she looked agitated. Jade turned to her assistant and said, "Violet, you go and relax. I want to have a chat with her." Violet nodded and stepped away. Jade found a quiet place to sit down and patted the seat next to her. "Mimi, were you looking for me?" she asked the young woman. Miranda said, "Well, I have something I want to ask you. I'd like to know how you and Dario Foster know each other. Have you known him very long?" When she mentioned Dario, Jade recalled the drawing she had seen in her autograph book. She frowned. "Miranda, why do you ask? Do you know Dario?" she inquired uneasily. She had a feeling she might not like the answer. Miranda gritted her teeth and took out the book so Jade could see the sketch again. It was definitely Dario. "Miss Winslet, there's something you need to know. Don't be fooled by him. He's not a good person," Miranda said desperately. "Miranda, what are you talking about? How well do you know him?" Jade asked. Dario had always seemed perfect to her. She wasn't comfortable hearing someone say something negative about him. "Well, I don't know if you know, but he was seriously injured 5 years ago. I'm the one who saved him. He said that he'd been looking for me for the past 5 years, but when he found me, he just ignored me. He's an ungrateful man. I really didn't expect him to behave that way." Miranda's face was filled with anger as she spoke, and her eyes were full of jealousy. Jade was just a victim, while she was Dario's savior. Yet, he had chosen the victim instead of her. "Miranda, what are you saying? Do you mean you have feelings for Dario too?" Jade asked, looking shocked. "I just wanted you to know his true colors. If you had saved his life 5 years ago and he didn't show any regard for your feelings, wouldn't you feel disappointed? He never even said thank you," Miranda shouted furiously. Miranda had just wanted to talk to Dario face to face, but when she tried to reach him after the kidnapping, he had asked his underlings to communicate with her. He had even told them to give her a blank check. Why? So that I would go away, she thought, but I'm not a beggar. She was very disillusioned with Dario. Jade saw how upset she was and gently reached for her hand. She did her best to explain. "Miranda, I don't know what happened between you two, but I want you to know that Dario isn't like that. If you saved him, I think he'll find his own way to repay you. There must be some misunderstanding." She couldn't stand the idea that someone thought Dario was a bad person. She didn't know what else to say to her. Mimi had always seemed like a sweet girl who took things very seriously. She had no reason to lie. Looking into her eyes, Jade could see she wasn't acting. These were real emotions. Miss Winslet, why do you trust him so much? Are you two already together? Miranda asked. At this thought, her eyes were filled with sadness. Then she said apologetically, "If that's the case, just pretend that I didn't say anything. I just saw the news that someone I had rescued was confessing his love for another woman. It made my heart sad. If you're with him, ignore what I said. I just had to get it off my chest." Jade understood and was sure that Miranda didn't have bad intentions. Of course she wanted to share her feelings. But how could that matter be explained? Just as the photos of her with Bruce had an explanation, she was sure there was one for this situation. "Miranda, I don't blame you, but I do believe in him. I really think you must have misunderstood him. He isn't the kind of person you think he is," Jade said. She was still trying her best to be fair to Dario. Miranda sighed dejectedly and said, "No, I've seen exactly what kind of person he is. He's so good to you, but he's awful to me. It just feels so unfair. Miss Winslet, just know that I'm jealous of you." Miranda tried to hide the tears in her eyes. Pretending to be calm, she added, "You're busy getting ready to film. I won't bother you any longer. Goodbye." Jade watched Miranda's back as she left and frowned. She couldn't shake what she had told her. What exactly had happened 5 years ago? Episode 468, Crashing Down. How was Dario injured? Why did Miranda save him? What did she save him from? Jade asked herself. Why hasn't Dario talked about these things with me? She shook her head to clear out the many questions she had when she was called to the set. Jade had a lot of work to accomplish that day, and she didn't have time to think about anything else. Dario had returned to the Milliken agency after sending Jade off to Los Angeles. He had a lot on his hands. Everyone in the Foster and Harper families was in an uproar. He needed to deal with them in addition to avenging his wife and taking care of the company business. He had a lot to get done before he could fly to California to join his wife that night. At night, he only belonged to Jade. The film shoot in the afternoon had been going smoothly, but suddenly, the entire set began to shake. Pieces of the lighting and ceiling crashed to the ground. Everyone in the area, including Jade, panicked. They all ran for cover. As Jade tried to find a safe place, she tripped on the costume and fell. At the same time, a large pillar from the set started to fall in her direction. Caroline and Violet were about to rush forward to protect her when a thin figure flashed past them. Jade screamed as she watched the pillar come toward her. Just as it was about to hit her, she closed her eyes, but then felt something push her. She heard a crash, but she didn't feel the pain that she had anticipated. "Quick! Save her!" Caroline shouted, and people ran over to move the column. Jade looked over and saw Miranda under the pieces of the broken pillar. It had crushed Miranda's midsection. She coughed up a mouthful of blood, which landed on Jade's costume. Jade's face turned pale as she stared at her. "Oh my God, Miranda, are you okay?" "Hurry up and get them out of here," Caroline commanded as she scooped up Miranda while Violet helped Jade stand. They needed to get outside in case anything else fell. "Somebody call an ambulance. What's the matter with you people?" Caroline yelled. She was worried about Dario's reaction if he found out Jade had almost been crushed. Once they were outside, Jade ran over to Miranda with an agonized face. "Miranda, are you okay? Why were you so stupid? Why did you try to save me?" she asked. Based on their conversation earlier, Miranda was the last person she would have expected to try and rescue her. Miranda's face was pale and sweaty. When she heard Jade's voice, she weakly opened her eyes. She gave her a bitter smile and said, "I did it because I want you to owe me. Jade, remember that I saved your life. You owe me. And Dario, you'd better remember this too. Now you owe me for 2 lives." Miranda thought just before she passed out. Within minutes, the ambulances began to arrive. Jade made sure Miranda was the first one they took care of. Her heart was beating rapidly. She prayed that Miranda would be all right. Many people had been injured. Thanks to Miranda, Jade only had some mild abrasions on her arm. She just needed some antibiotic cream and bandages. But Miranda ended up unconscious in the hospital. Jade wasn't concerned about what Miranda had said before she passed out. Miranda had saved her life. Jade was a person who knew how to repay kindness. Of course, when the news hit the major media outlets, Jade's social media accounts exploded. Everyone was concerned about her safety. Violet had been tracking Jade's account and told her about the many fans who were worried about her. Jade was grateful and took a selfie to let them all know she was okay. She also asked them to pray that Miranda would be all right. Dario had been busy with his work, so he had no idea what was happening in Los Angeles. But Lucas had been watching the news and gathering information. He was sitting in the office next door, wondering when he should tell Dario. He clearly remembered Dario's reaction the last time something had happened to Jade. He didn't want to see him like that again, but he knew that he would find out sooner or later. It was better to go and tell him as soon as possible. He stood at the door for a while but didn't enter. Dario didn't even raise his head. He kept working and eventually said, "What is it? If you have something to say, say it." Lucas slowly walked up to the desk. He hesitated and then finally said, "I have news. There was an accident on the set of the palace." Before Lucas could tell him what had happened, Dario looked up with a frantic expression. Lucas quickly said, "Don't worry, Jade's fine. There was a collapse at the complex. She just has some minor injuries. However, Miranda Gray was seriously hurt. Apparently she saved Jade and is currently being treated at the hospital." Lucas had been surprised by the news that the delicate woman had saved Jade's life. He wondered if it had been an accident or something deliberate. Why did it have to involve those two? When Dario heard Miranda's name, he was stunned. Then he regained his composure and got up from his desk. "Do you want me to arrange for a plane to LA?" Lucas asked. Episode 469, You Owe Me. As Dario rode down in the VIP elevator, his face was unreadable. Lucas called the captain of Dario's private jet and they rushed to the airport. Miranda had regained consciousness at the hospital. However, because her injuries were serious, she needed to stay there under observation. Jade was standing at the door to her room. As she watched Miranda sleep, she felt guilty. She had paced the waiting room helplessly during Miranda's surgery. Then she heard a familiar voice. "Darling," Dario called worriedly when he saw her. Jade turned her head to see her husband rushing down the hallway. When she saw his face, she felt a huge sense of relief. Ever since the accident, she'd been keeping her emotions in check, but when she saw him, they all came pouring out. She threw herself into his embrace. "Oh, my darling, are you okay?" Dario asked anxiously as he hugged her. When Dario found out about the accident, his heart almost stopped. Jade immediately sensed his panic and quickly said, "Dario, don't worry, I'm fine. It's just that Miranda is hurt badly because she tried to save me." Dario wasn't listening. He carefully looked Jade up and down. When he saw the scrapes on her arm, his heart ached, but he was grateful to see that, otherwise, she seemed fine. Jade leaned against him with relief, but then she recalled what Miranda had said earlier. She had said that she had saved Dario 5 years before, but then he had ignored her. He hadn't even thanked her. While she didn't believe that Dario would do such a thing, she needed to find out what had really happened. "I have something I need to talk to you about," she told him with a complicated look in her eyes. "Come home with me, and we can talk about it there," he said. Because of the accident and the many injuries, the filming would be delayed for a few days. Dario wanted to take her back to Washington, but Jade shook her head. She looked over at Miranda worriedly. "No, I can't leave Miranda like this. We couldn't contact her family. I need to stay here and take care of her, or at least make sure that she's out of danger before I can leave." Dario loved that Jade was so kind and worried about others. As he reached out to tenderly touch her face, he finally noticed how haggard and miserable she looked. "Jade, you're not feeling guilty, are you?" he asked reservedly. Jade lifted her eyes and looked at him intensely. "I'm wondering if maybe you're the one who should be feeling guilty," she said. Dario gently stroked her face. He asked quietly, "What are you trying to say to me?" Jade sighed and looked over at Miranda, who was still sleeping. Then she looked at Dario and said earnestly, "I want to know if Miranda met you 5 years ago." Dario knew that if she was asking the question, then she already knew the truth. It was useless to lie. "Yes, she saved me," he said. "So you weren't just looking for me for 5 years, but also for Miranda. Tell me what happened." Lucas, who'd been standing off to the side, looked at Dario. After receiving a nod of approval, he began to explain to Jade. "Well, 5 years ago, Mr. Foster was indeed injured. He was shot and barely conscious. Miss Gray lured the bad guys away to save his life. That's why we've been looking for her." "It really did happen," Jade muttered to herself. "Sweetheart, once she awakens, I'll be able to explain it to you properly. The doctor says the sedatives should wear off soon and she'll wake up," Dario promised. He knew Jade was scared and held her in his arms. He didn't want to discuss the situation with her at that moment and cause more anxiety. He just wanted to take her home and comfort her. Jade realized how worried he was and tried to reassure him. She said, "I'm fine. It's just some abrasions. You need to stop fretting." When Dario had learned that Jade had been hurt, he had rushed to LA as fast as possible. Now that she was in front of him, safe and sound, he felt relieved. It was time to focus on other things. He turned and said to Lucas, "See if you can find out how this happened." Dario owned the filming complex, and his people had been in charge of building it. He doubted that there were problems with the quality of the construction, so he thought that there must have been some other reason behind the accident. If something had been tampered with, he would find out who was responsible and make them pay. "I'm on it," Lucas said and swiftly left the room. As Jade had insisted on waiting for Miranda to wake up, Dario had no choice but to sit in the hospital and wait with her. While they waited, he sent some of his security people to chase away the reporters. Both Jade and Miranda needed peace and quiet. Miranda finally regained consciousness. Her condition had improved a great deal, but she was still weak. Jade saw that she had opened her eyes and rushed forward. She gave her a pillow to help her sit up. Then she poured her a glass of water and looked at her nervously. "Miranda, how do you feel? Do you need me to call the doctor over? Do you want some water?" Jade asked. "Miss Winslet, you don't need to be so concerned," she said. Then she gave Dario a hostile look. "Has he come to see me? I doubt it. He's come to find Jade," she thought. "Oh, Miranda, this is all my fault," Jade said. "No, it's my fault. I wanted you to be in debt to me," Miranda said coldly. She noticed that Dario had never even glanced her way. He only had eyes for Jade. She gripped the sheet in frustration. Jade stood at the bedside feeling uncomfortable. For some reason, she felt like she shouldn't be in the room with the two of them. It was Miranda who had saved him. He should be in love with Miranda. He owed her. Jade thought that perhaps she shouldn't have ever been in the picture. As if he could read her mind, Dario gripped her hand and said softly, "Darling, do you believe in me?" "Of course I believe in you. In this world, you're the only person I trust." Episode 470. No Gratitude. "Since you believe me, let me talk to Miranda alone," Dario said, and gently kissed his wife on the forehead. Miranda watched the exchange with bitterness, but she maintained her composure. Jade nodded and walked out of the room, followed closely by Lucas. Lucas noticed that Jade looked sad. He sighed and said, "Miss Winslet, Mr. Foster loves you very much. When you were kidnapped, he spent 3 days and nights trying to find you without once lying down to sleep. He even sifted through surveillance footage himself." "He didn't sleep for 3 days and nights?" Jade repeated incredulously. The thought of Dario doing that for her made her heart flutter, and she remembered him wearing the bulletproof vest and shooting himself to save her. "I know he loves me," she thought. "He loves me to the bone." Dario stood beside the hospital bed, with an expressionless face and stared intently at Miranda. He looked at her for a long time before he said, "Say what it is you want to say." Miranda returned his gaze. "How can you treat me like this? I saved your life. You searched for me, but once you found me, you didn't even want to see me or thank me. I never expected you to be that sort of person. You have no gratitude at all for what I've done," she said angrily. "How is it that you want me to repay you? Do you want me to take you as my wife? Is that what you want?" he asked coldly. Miranda was shocked by the bluntness of his words and was speechless for a moment before she retorted, "You have no idea how to thank me. How can you be so heartless?" "Now that you know that we're never going to be together, you leave Jade alone," Dario said. "She's pure and good and kind, and she doesn't deserve to be hurt by any of this. If you try to hurt her in any way, even if you did save my life, the consequences will be severe." Miranda felt deeply wronged by Dario's undisguised threat, and resentment showed on her pretty face. "Dario, what right do you have to treat me like this? I did approach Jade, but at first I wasn't aware of your relationship with her. I only found out last week when it was on the news that you confessed your love for her. Didn't you consider my feelings at all? It's true that I joined the King's Palace cast to get close to her, but I saved her life. If it wasn't for me, the person lying in a hospital bed now would be Jade. So why are you looking at me like I'm a piece of dirt? You haven't even thanked me. You're heartless." Dario's face showed no emotion as he listened to Miranda's tirade. "I don't have a conscience. I'm a selfish person, and if anyone ever tries to hurt Jade or damage our relationship, I'll show them no mercy at all. The same applies to you." "Well, it seems that you love her very much," Miranda said bitterly. "You've given all your love to her, and I'm jealous of that love. What's wrong with this world? I saved your life, and now you're threatening me." "How much do you know about me and her?" Dario asked suspiciously. She didn't like his penetrating gaze, so she smiled bitterly and adjusted her pillow so that she could lie down. "I'm tired. Can you leave now?" she said. Dario looked down at her and said, "I'll warn you one last time. No matter what you've done for me in the past, I won't let anyone hurt Jade. Do you understand? If you try, I'll defend her ruthlessly." In response, Miranda pulled the blanket higher as if to isolate herself from his threats. Dario walked out of the room, unaware that under the bed sheets, Miranda was crying. "I've waited for you for 5 years," she thought, "and this is how you treat me. You've taken another woman and given her all of your love. For me, there isn't even a thank you, just threats." As Dario walked toward her, Jade smiled at him broadly and threw herself into his arms. She clung on tightly as if desperate not to lose him. Dario looked at Lucas indifferently. He knew instinctively that Lucas had told Jade how he had suffered in his efforts to rescue her from the kidnappers, and he said simply, "Don't you have work to do?" "Yes, Mr. Foster," Lucas replied, and he walked away swiftly. Watching the love develop between Dario and Jade had made him more considerate, and he was beginning to see the world a little differently. Episode 471. You're My Princess. "Dario, what did you say to Miranda just now? She saved me from getting badly hurt or worse. I hope you treated her well," Jade said. Dario looked at her and smiled. "Are you jealous?" he asked. "I was only out of your sight for a few minutes. You just want to stick to me like glue, don't you? I think you need to learn to be more independent," he teased. "Okay, so you don't like my company now?" she retorted playfully. "Well, I'm not the jealous type, I'll have you know." "Well, that just won't do," he said. "If you don't get jealous of me talking to another woman, that means you don't love me enough." He took her hand in his and held it gently as they walked. Jade bit his hand softly and smiled at him. "You still haven't answered my question," she said. "What else can I say? I wanted to talk to her about how she saved my life. Don't worry, I'll make sure that she's rewarded properly." "That's good," Jade replied. "She saved both of our lives, so you'll have to make it a big reward." Jade sighed with relief. Dario isn't the sort of person who wouldn't reward his savior. It must have been a misunderstanding, she thought. "Let's go home," she suggested. As they walked out of the hospital, Jade looked back with concern. Dario noticed her look and said, "Don't worry, I've arranged for a private nurse to take care of her." Jade looked at her husband with a relieved expression and smiled. Back in their house in Washington, Dario prepared a hot bath for his wife. Today must have been a shock for her, he thought. She needs to relax. As Jade took off her clothes, Dario spotted traces of Miranda's blood on them, and he threw them in the trash can. He went down the stairs to the kitchen to make dinner, aware that Jade hadn't eaten anything all day. While he was cooking, he had Lucas give him a full report about why the film studio had collapsed. It turned out that the buildings were old and in need of restoration, so he instructed Lucas to arrange for $4 million to be used to renovate the studio complex so that safety wouldn't be an issue again. "I can't allow there to be any risk of Jade being hurt," he thought, angry at himself that she had so nearly been badly injured in a place that he was responsible for. Dario had almost finished cooking when Jade came out of the bathroom. As he spotted her walking towards him, he rushed toward her and carried her the rest of the way to the table. Jade smiled at his excessive pampering. "Dario, I've just got a scratch. It's not like I'm crippled. You don't need to carry me. I can walk on my own," she protested half-heartedly. "You're my princess, and you shouldn't have to walk to the table," he said, and then kissed her on the lips. She had just come out of the shower. Her skin was cool and she smelled nice. Dario felt himself being aroused, but then he remembered that she hadn't yet eaten anything, so he forced himself to ignore his desire for her. He watched her eat, and he noticed that she looked thoughtful and distracted. After the meal, Dario began washing the dishes while Jade relaxed on the couch in the living room. After he had finished clearing the kitchen, he went and sat down next to her. Jade was lost in thought and jumped, shocked at Dario's sudden appearance. After the initial shock, she put her arms around his neck and nestled into him. "Dario, you scared me," she exclaimed. "I thought you might need a hug," he said, smiling at her. He picked her up off the couch and carried her to the bedroom, kissing her once on each step. "This man is insatiable," she thought, as he carried her toward the bed. "Wait, Dario, I still have questions for you," she said. She wriggled out of his arms and said firmly, "If you don't answer my questions, then I won't sleep with you." Dario looked at her and guessed that she wasn't bluffing. This woman is getting more and more difficult, he thought admiringly. He smiled, stepped toward her, and kissed her ear. "Ask me whatever you want." Jade took a step backward and looked at him seriously. "I want to know why you've been searching so long for the woman who saved you. Is it because you wanted to repay her kindness?" "She's not going to let this drop until she has an answer," he thought. He nodded in response. Then she asked, "Have you thought about how you're going to repay her for what she did?" "It was my intention to find and see if there was anything that she needed in life that I could help her with," Dario replied truthfully. Episode 472. A Big Story. Jade frowned. What he says fits in with what Miranda said, she thought. But why did she seem so angry with him? And why did he go to all the effort of finding her only to be so cold to the person who saved his life? It doesn't make sense. "The way you talk to her doesn't fit in with what you're saying," Jade said. attempting to make sense of the situation. Dario saw the confused look on her face and stroked her cheek tenderly. "Jade, before I met you, I was searching for her because I wanted to thank her and help her and maybe get to know her. But after I met you, I realized that my heart belongs to you alone. I can help her with money, but I can't get close to her in any way because there isn't enough room in my heart for another woman. It turns out that she doesn't want a financial reward, but I'll still try my best to make sure that I can reward her, even if it means getting someone else to help her." Dario read between the lines of what her husband was saying. "So Miranda wants to be with Dario. I should have realized. She doesn't want money. She wants my husband." Jade nodded in acceptance of what Dario had said. "I have to explain it to her properly," he thought, "or there will always be doubt in the back of her mind." "Jade, I hope you can understand," Dario began. "To me, repaying kindness and giving my heart away are two very different things. In the past, before I met you, she did occupy a place in my heart. I searched for her for 5 years, but now I can see that I can't become emotionally involved with her. You're the woman I love, and there just isn't any space for her. It's not just that I met you first. Even if I'd found her before I met you, I'd still choose to be with you." Jade listened to his explanation with wide eyes and a growing sense of warmth. So Miranda is important to him, and he wants to reward her, but she wants him as a reward, and that's something he's not willing to give. Jade thought back to when she had thought that Bruce had saved her. "I felt obligated to Bruce, and I gave him my love, but it wasn't a healthy love." Miranda was angry with Dario because she felt rejected. "I can't be angry with him for rejecting another woman," she thought with a smile. Jade was pensive for a few moments before she said, "Dario, promise me that if I'm ever in trouble again, you won't torture yourself trying to rescue me. Lucas told me that you didn't sleep for 3 days and nights while you were searching for me. Then you even shot yourself and suffered internal injuries. If anything ever happened to you because of me, I'd die of guilt," she said, as she leaned into his powerful chest. "Everything we've gone through together has made us closer," she thought. "Jade, you're the most important person in the world to me, so when I see you hurt, it hurts me. You must be exhausted after everything that's happened. You need to unwind," he said. She looked into his eyes and knew what he was thinking. He leaned in to kiss her, and she relaxed willingly into his embrace. Early the next morning, Jade received a call from Violet. Before Jade could say anything, Violet started speaking excitedly. "Oh my God, Jade, do you know yet? Have you seen the news? I really thought that Miranda had saved you out of the goodness of her heart, but it seems that she had other motives." Jade rubbed her tired eyes and said doubtfully, "Violet, what are you talking about? What has happened? I can't believe you don't know. Go online and see the news. Then look at the message that I sent you," Violet said, and then she ended the call. Jade took a few moments to wake up and then looked online. Miranda was all over the internet. The day before, Jade had announced that Miranda had saved her, and the media had run with the story. In one night, Miranda had gone from being an unknown actress to a rising star at the center of a media storm. Reporters had flocked to the hospital where she was being treated in search of her version of events, while several film companies had shown an interest in signing her up for work. The story that she had put herself in danger to save Jade had captured the imagination of Jade's fans and made Miranda instantly popular. Dario's phone rang, and he answered it. As usual, Lucas began reporting instantly. "Mr. Foster, the story about Miss Gray has gone viral. I think there must be someone driving it. Stay in Los Angeles, keep looking into it, and report to me if you find anything," Dario instructed. "Lucas is right. Someone is hyping this story up," Dario thought. "The question is, who?" Jade read Violet's message, in which Violet told Jade that the reason Miranda had saved her was to gain popularity. "Whatever Miranda's reason for saving me, I'm still grateful that she did," Jade thought. Then Jade played the video that was attached to the message. It was an interview with Miranda. "I wonder what she'll say," Jade thought. Miranda looked much recovered in the video. She smiled happily and appeared comfortable and confident. She looked around self-assuredly and addressed each of the reporters' questions. "Miss Gray, we heard that you saved Miss Winslet. May I ask what you were thinking at that time? Weren't you afraid that you would get hurt? And did you hesitate before you acted?" Miranda smiled and faced the camera. "To be honest, I did hesitate for a moment. I was scared that I'd get hurt, but Miss Winslet is an idol of mine. So when I saw the pillar was about to crash down on her, I knew that I had to act. Although, even if it wasn't her, I think I'd still have done the same thing." The reporter then said, "So you're a fan of Miss Winslet's. No wonder you're so brave. I heard that Miss Winslet also accompanied you to the hospital and stayed to make sure you were okay. It sounds like she was worried about you." Miranda smiled again. Yes, she came with me to the hospital. It was like a dream come true. Mr. Foster also came with her, and they only left once they were sure that I was out of danger. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank them both for their kindness. The reporters sensed that the story had just gotten much more interesting. It was rare to get news about the fabled billionaire businessman Mr. Foster, and it was an opportunity they didn't want to miss. Episode 473. She wants Dario. The reporters fired questions at Miranda. Mr. Foster came to visit you as well? Was he here with Miss Winslet? Did they arrive together? Were they acting like they were a couple? Did Mr. Foster say anything to you? The reporters were clearly excited by the revelation that Dario had been there and what that might mean. Miranda sensed their excitement and her eyes lit up, although she remained outwardly calm. She smiled and said vaguely, "Actually, I'm not sure. I saw Mr. Foster, but if you want to know if they're in a relationship, you'd have to ask them." The questions continued. "Miss Gray, you've become famous overnight. How do you feel?" "It feels quite strange," Miranda replied. "But I don't think I'm famous. I just feel that people know who I am now." "I heard that several film companies want you to sign a contract. Do you know which company you want to go with?" Miranda raised her eyebrows and replied, "Yes, I'd like to work for the Milliken Agency." There were a few gasps of astonishment from the reporters. The Milliken Agency, founded by a mysterious super-rich man, was one of the most prestigious companies to work for, and it was an ambitious goal. Miranda continued, "My idol is in the Milliken Agency, so naturally I would like to work with her one day." "So," one of the reporters said, "have you had any interest from the Milliken Agency? Have you had an offer of work?" "No, not yet, but I hope to be able to show them that I would be a real asset to the company," she replied. Jade ended the video. Her expression was serious and thoughtful. "I never expected her to want to work for the Milliken Agency," she thought. "Although, I've got a feeling that that isn't her ultimate goal. She wants Dario." Dario took the phone out of her hand and turned it off and put it on the bedside table. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Come on, you need to have some breakfast," he said. "I'll make it for you." He must have heard that interview, she thought. "No need, I'll make breakfast," she said. "You had a hard day yesterday too." "I didn't work hard yesterday at all," he replied. "I've got lots of energy. If you don't believe me, let me show you how much energy I've still got," he said, as he wrapped his strong arms around her slight frame. Jade could feel the heat of his passion, and she blushed. She glared at him. "Dario, stop teasing me. Why do you always have to make everything about sex?" "But I like teasing you. It's my favorite hobby. Besides, you look so pretty when you blush," he said, grinning mischievously. "You leave me alone. I'm going to make breakfast," she said, still blushing. Jade pushed him away and scurried into the bathroom to wash. Afterward, she changed into more comfortable clothes with the intention of making breakfast, acutely aware that if she stayed too long in the bedroom, her husband would want to make love to her. Just as she was leaving the room, she turned her phone back on and immediately received a call from a number she'd only seen once before. She looked at the phone for a few moments, debating whether to pick up the call or not. She answered the phone with a cold voice. "Hello, what do you want?" "Jade, are you awake? Did I disturb you?" said Charlotte. "Is there something you want?" Jade said again, trying to ignore her rapidly beating heart and to sound indifferent. Charlotte was saddened by her daughter's hostile voice, but she continued to talk nicely as if trying to soothe her. "Jade, are you busy today? I'd really like to see you. I'm at the hospital with your grandmother." Jade didn't want to go, but she could hear the anxiety in her mother's voice. "I can come, but you'll have to wait. I haven't had any breakfast yet." Okay, we're waiting for you here. You must eat the breakfast. Take your time, don't rush," she said. Jade was about to end the call when Charlotte added, "I saw the news. It said that a young woman saved you. Are you all right?" "If I wasn't all right, I wouldn't be talking to you right now, would I?" Jade replied. "Well, I'm glad you're okay. We're both glad to hear you're okay," Charlotte said. "All right, if there's nothing else, I'll see you when I get there," Jade said impatiently. "Jade, I know that you're still angry with me, but I hope that in time you'll be able to see that I had no choice but to leave you. I hope that you'll forgive me one day," Charlotte said. "I'm going to make breakfast. Goodbye," Jade said, and she ended the call. She could feel her heart beating rapidly, and she noticed that her hand was clenched tightly around the phone. She put the phone back on the bedside table and walked to the kitchen. She found Dario was already making breakfast, and she went up to him and hugged him tightly from behind. "He always makes me feel so safe and secure," she thought. "Are you hungry?" he asked as he turned around and kissed her lightly on the forehead. Episode 474. An Ambush. Jade smiled happily and buried her head in his chest. She said softly, "No, I just want to hug you. You carry on making breakfast while I cuddle you." "When did my little wife become so clingy?" Dario asked happily. He turned back around and carried on making breakfast while she hugged him from behind. After breakfast, Dario drove Jade to the hospital. He arranged for Caroline and Violet to meet her there, while he went on to his office in the Milliken agency to work. Charlotte had been waiting at the hospital for her, and as soon as Jade had spoken to Iris, Charlotte asked if they could talk alone. Jade nodded and followed her out into the corridor. Caroline and Violet were standing further down the corridor, so mother and daughter were able to talk privately. "Is there something you wanted to say?" Jade asked, keen to get the interaction over with as soon as possible. Charlotte frowned at her daughter's open hostility and said, "Jade, I was afraid that you'd been hurt. After I saw the news, I wanted to see you and check that you were okay." "Oh, is that so?" Jade replied, suspecting that she might have an ulterior motive, but still hopeful that her mother might be telling the truth. "Well, there is one other thing," Charlotte continued, her eyes flashing with excitement and bitterness. Jade looked at her mother with deep disappointment, all hope that she was her main priority dissipating. Charlotte took Jade's hand in hers and said, "Jade, things are going badly for the Stevens family at the moment. Now is the perfect time to strike. Now is the time to get revenge for everything they did to us. I asked you over so that—" Jade withdrew her hand and looked at her mother with contempt. "So you called me over to try to persuade me to damage the Stevens family, not because you cared about me and wanted to check that I was all right," Jade said. I really did hope that maybe, just maybe, she wanted to check if I was okay. After all these years that we've missed together, she cares more about revenge than about seeing her daughter, Jade thought bitterly. If she didn't want to use me, I probably wouldn't even know what she looks like right now. Charlotte saw that Jade was angry and looked at her guiltily. "Jade, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I so want to topple that family after everything they did to us, and I didn't stop to think about how you would feel," Charlotte said. "I don't think she understands me or cares about me at all," Jade thought. "Enough. You don't need to say any more. Let me tell you now, I'll never use Dario to help you get your revenge," Jade said firmly. "No, Jade, I don't want to use you. I wanted to ask you for help," Charlotte protested. "I don't see the difference between asking me for help and using me. What even makes you think that Dario would want to help hurt the Stevenses? What do you know about me and Dario? I understand that you want to get revenge for what they did to you, and I want that too, but you can't involve someone like Dario who has nothing at all to do with it," Jade said hotly. "Charlotte doesn't even know I'm married to Dario yet, and she wants me to use him. If this got out, it could cause us all sorts of trouble," Jade thought. "Jade, this is a fantastic opportunity. If we miss it, I'm afraid that we might not get another chance. The Stevensons are a powerful family, but the Fosters have even more power and influence. He could help us to ruin them," Charlotte said with desperation in her voice. "Forget it. I'm not using Dario's feelings for me to do something like that," Jade replied as she pushed her away. Charlotte sighed helplessly. "All right, if you won't help me, then I'll just have to find another way," she said. "Let's go see your grandma." Jade was surprised that her mother had dropped the matter so abruptly, and she followed her back towards Iris's room. As they got back to the room, Jade spotted a large group of reporters at the door. "Charlotte hasn't given up," she thought. "She's just changed her tactics. No one is supposed to know that I'm here," she thought. "There's no way that Caroline or Violet would give away my location to the press, and Dario certainly wouldn't. Charlotte must have arranged for them to be here." When the reporters saw Jade walking toward them, they immediately started asking her questions. "Miss Winslet, I heard this woman Charlotte Ray is your biological mother. Is that true? Miss Winslet, previously you said that you were an orphan, but now your biological mother has appeared. Do you know each other?" Jade felt like she'd been ambushed. She ignored their questions and looked at Charlotte expressionlessly. Charlotte didn't seem fazed by their presence. She smiled politely and said, "Yes, I am indeed Jade's mother." The reporters quickly surrounded Charlotte and bombarded her with more questions, while cameras flashed relentlessly. One reporter asked loudly, "Miss Ray, I heard that you abandoned your own daughter, Miss Winslet. How could you do such a thing?" Episode 475. A New Plan. It was a female reporter who had asked the question, and from the obvious anger in her voice, Jade thought that she was likely to be a mother herself. Charlotte looked stunned for a moment. Then she faced the camera with a troubled expression and said, "As a mother, who would want to abandon their own daughter? I didn't leave her out of choice. I was forced to. The reason that I've returned now is to ensure that the people responsible face justice. I want to take back everything that was stolen from me." "Whom are you saying forced you to abandon your daughter, Miss Ray?" the reporter asked. Another reporter added, "And what is your purpose for coming to Washington? What do you hope to achieve by contacting Miss Winslet? Are you here to rebuild your relationship with her?" Charlotte was about to answer the reporter's questions when she saw a woman in black walking toward them purposefully. Caroline strode over to the group of reporters and stood assertively in front of Jade as if protecting her. "Stop! Who invited you here?" she asked. The reporters went silent, like naughty children in front of a strict teacher. Caroline was well known as an influential manager in the Milliken agency who rarely allowed the press access to actors under her care. She had taken particular care of Jade, and no one had found any compromising news about her for quite some time. There had been rumors that Caroline had the full support of the mysterious and powerful boss of the Milliken agency, which made reporters even more reluctant to offend her. With a nod from Caroline, Violet then moved forward and said, "I'm sorry, everyone, but Miss Winslet came to see her grandma today. She didn't expect to be interviewed. Also, remember that this is a hospital and it's important not to disturb the patients. We need you to leave, please." Some of the reporters looked at Charlotte as if they were looking for guidance. Charlotte smiled and said, "This lady is quite right. This is a hospital, and it's not suitable for interviews. You should all leave. If you don't leave right away, I'll have to call the police," Caroline added, glaring at the horde challengingly. The journalists responded immediately and began scurrying away like children who'd been dismissed by their teacher. As soon as they had left, Charlotte let out a sigh of relief. "Where did all those reporters come from? They scared me half to death," she said. Jade looked at her mother suspiciously. Maybe she didn't call the reporters, or maybe she's just trying her hand at acting, she wondered. Maybe she arranged for them to be here so that she could let Dario know about her and pave the way for him to help get her revenge. In the Harper family home, Evelyn gripped her phone tightly as she looked at the news on the screen. When she saw that Dario had taken roses to Jade and picked her up from work, she felt like smashing her phone. Then, she read that Jade had narrowly escaped being crushed by a pillar. Why does Jade always avoid danger? I wish that pillar had crushed her to death. I wish she was dead, she said through gritted teeth. Evelyn was becoming increasingly detached from reality. Every time she read news about Jade, she became irate and muttered angrily to herself. I haven't seen Dario in so long now. I just want to see him, she thought desperately. She was sitting on the ground with tears streaming down her face when Hilda entered the room. Evelyn, what are you doing sitting there sobbing like that? Stand up, wash your face, and get dressed into something nice, she said in a cross voice. Grandma, you said that you would help me. Dario has already been stolen from me by another woman. If I don't stop them soon, they'll have a child together, and then all hope really will be lost, Evelyn said between sobs. That's enough idle talk, young lady. I'm trying to help you. Now, clean yourself up immediately and listen. At 1 o'clock this afternoon, there is a promotional event for the Decadent Lady movie. You're going to attend, she said in a commanding tone. What? But isn't Decadent Lady the movie that Jade is in? Why would I go to that? Evelyn asked angrily. Shut up. If you want to get Dario, you need to listen to me, Hilda said seriously. Evelyn's expression changed to one of hope. She got up and rushed toward her grandmother. Grandma, did you think of a way? Maybe Grandma really has figured out a way to help me get Dario, she thought hopefully. Hurry up and change your clothes, Hilda instructed. Yes, Grandma, I'll be ready as soon as I can, Evelyn replied. She rushed to the bathroom to wash her face and apply some makeup before changing into one of her favorite dresses. As the Harper family was one of the investors in Decadent Lady, they were able to attend any events related to the movie. Hilda was intent on taking charge of the situation. What Evelyn needs is my strong guiding hand, she thought. Back at the hospital, Jade was feeling restless. She'd received a message saying that the promotional event was scheduled to be held in the stadium at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and she knew that as the female lead, she would be expected to attend. On the way there, Violet, who had been looking at her phone, suddenly shouted, "Who the hell is responsible for this story?" Jade was still feeling disturbed by the sudden appearance of the reporters at the hospital, and she didn't react immediately. Jade, you have to read this. This is important," Violet said, frustrated at Jade's lack of attention. Episode 476, No Mercy. Jade took the phone from her hand and read what was on the screen. The gossip article stated that Evelyn had once been engaged to Dario and that Jade had snatched him away from her. It went on to say that Dario and Evelyn had been childhood sweethearts. There are a range of pictures showing Dario and Evelyn together when they were young, and there was one of Evelyn looking very friendly with Dario's mother in the foster villa. Several other articles corroborated the first. As Jade read on, it became clear to her that she was being depicted as a woman who had appeared on the scene and broken up a long-standing relationship between two people who were very much in love. One story focused on Evelyn's successes and highlighted how she had won various awards for her piano playing. It said she came from a wealthy family with a good name. Jade was described as a woman with a questionable background who had mostly played minor roles in her acting career. All of the stories made Jade look like a devious and calculating woman who had hatched a plan to steal Evelyn's fiancé. The story had been picked up by the various social media sites with the usual commentary and gossip, which was overwhelmingly in support of Evelyn. What? I never knew that Jade was like that. Snatching someone else's fiancé is a shameless thing to do. I'm so disappointed in her. I didn't think she was like that at all. I used to like Jade, but I'm definitely not a fan of hers anymore. Jade read the news with an increasing sense of anger, but also a hint of amusement at how ridiculous it was. Obviously, someone is doing this on purpose, probably the Harper family. It looks like Evelyn has no intention of letting Dario go, she thought. Violet was infuriated on Jade's behalf. What the hell is going on? Whoever wrote this nonsense says that Evelyn was engaged to your husband, but you're already married. It doesn't make any sense. Caroline glanced at Violet disdainfully and said, "Don't believe everything you read in the news, Violet." Violet nodded and said, "I don't believe it. This is clearly nonsense. Jade is nothing like the person they're making her out to be. What I want to know is who did this and what do we do about it now?" Caroline looked at her calmly. "You don't need to worry about any of that. It will be dealt with," she said mysteriously. "Well," Jade said, "it looks like it's someone who has a lot of spare time on their hands." She thought for a few moments and then decided to phone her husband. Dario was in the middle of a meeting with the board of directors, but when he saw Jade's name flash up on his screens, he unceremoniously ended the meeting to answer it. The directors left, dumbfounded and slightly put out, but none of them said anything for fear of earning Dario's displeasure. "You miss me already?" he said good-naturedly as he answered the call. Dario had been busy with his work and wasn't aware of the stories that had surfaced. Jade smiled, amused that the important businessman wasn't yet in the know, and she would be the one to tell him. "I have some interesting news to tell you." "What interesting news?" Dario asked, his curiosity aroused. "The great Mr. Foster is in the headlines again. I have to congratulate you on your very first scandal." "What scandal?" Dario asked, irritated and not knowing what was going on. It looks like we've arrived at the stadium. I have to go and change my clothes for the promotional event. Let's talk about it later," she said, enigmatically. She ended the call, smiling broadly at the thought of the confused expression on Dario's handsome face. Dario stared incredulously at his phone. What was that all about? He wondered. Just then, Lucas entered the conference room with a tablet computer and a troubled expression. Dario took the tablet and looked at the screen. A faint smile appeared on his face, amused at his wife's cryptic comments and pleased that she had been able to take it all in good humor. Then his expression darkened. "I think I know what this is all about," he thought. "It seems like the Harper family are pushing the story," Lucas observed calmly. "The media wouldn't dare to report this nonsense if they didn't have encouragement from someone influential." Lucas is right. It must have been the Harpers. I'm just glad that Jade isn't taking this seriously, Dario thought. "Have you contacted the Harpers yet?" Dario asked expressionlessly. "We tried to," Lucas said, "but we weren't able to get through to anyone. We don't know where Evelyn is right now. It looks like they're making sure that we can't contact her. They're clearly avoiding us on purpose." Dario sneered. If Evelyn's surname wasn't Harper, she'd be in prison already, Dario thought. I warned her not to go after Jade again. I told her there would be consequences, so she can't expect any mercy now. Episode 477, An Unexpected Arrival. "What shall we do now, Mr. Foster?" Lucas asked. "Let's go," Dario replied, getting up from the chair. As Jade got out of the car, there was a group of reporters who seemed to be waiting for her. Cameras flashed as she was bombarded by questions. "Miss Winslet, did you know that Evelyn Harper was Mr. Foster's fiancée? Miss Winslet, did you steal Miss Harper's boyfriend? Did you persuade Mr. Foster to break off his engagement to Evelyn Harper? Miss Winslet, can you say something?" Jade ignored the questions and maintained a neutral expression. Violet was angered by the paparazzi and positioned herself in front of Jade. "Shouldn't you be directing these questions to Mr. Foster to establish whether he was ever engaged to Miss Harper?" she asked angrily. "And do you really think that someone as popular as Miss Winslet needs to go around chasing after other people's fiancés?" "One source informed me that Mr. Foster and Miss Harper were childhood sweethearts who were going to be married," a reporter called out. "I was told that it was because of Miss Winslet that they broke up." "Don't you people have brains?" Violet retorted. "You need to investigate your facts properly before you start reporting things." The reporters ignored Violet and continued harassing Jade with questions. "Miss Winslet, why are you staying silent? Do you feel guilty about what you've done?" "It's obvious they don't want the truth," Jade thought. "They just want to paint me as badly as possible." Jade stood in front of the reporters confidently and said in a loud, clear voice, "The rumors are all completely untrue. It's all unfounded gossip. My conscience is clean. Now, we have a promotional event to attend, so please don't delay us." The reporters continued to crowd around her. Caroline then shouted above the noise, "I have just recorded a video of all the journalists here, in which I have a record of your slanderous questions. Tomorrow, I'll pass this video over to the Milliken Agency's legal team. We will bring legal action against anyone who is found to have slandered Miss Winslet." Silence descended over the crowd as they absorbed what Caroline had said. Her reputation was formidable, and none of them doubted that the Milliken Agency had the resources to make life very difficult for anyone who displeased them. "Now, anyone who doesn't get out of our way will be guaranteed to hear from our lawyers tomorrow," Caroline concluded. Violet looked on in admiration at the effect that she had on them. The reporters quietly stepped back and made space as the group walked through without any further questions. A few moments later, a sports car drove up to the stadium. It drew everyone's attention as they watched to see who would get out of the impressive-looking car. The reporters started taking photos and positioning themselves for when the doors opened. A man in black clothes who looked like a bodyguard came out the passenger side and opened one of the rear doors respectfully. Everyone stared as a beautiful woman emerged from the car, smiling confidently. She was tall and elegant, and she wore a red dress that accentuated her alluring figure. As Jade watched Evelyn emerge from the car, she felt her heart sink, although she was careful to maintain a calm expression. What is Evelyn up to now? She wondered. Violet immediately recognized Evelyn from the photos online. "God, is that the woman from the stories?" she asked. "What is she doing here at a promotional event for Decadent Lady? She must be here to cause trouble." Caroline glanced at Violet as if her ignorance annoyed her, and she said, "The Harper family is one of the investors in the film. Investors are always invited to these events." Evelyn looked around and saw Jade. She glared at her with obvious contempt and hostility. The reporters immediately began asking Evelyn questions. "Miss Harper, is it true that you and Mr. Foster were childhood sweethearts? Miss Harper, were you close to Mr. Foster before Miss Winslet appeared on the scene?" Evelyn stood confidently in front of the sports car. Several bodyguards had positioned themselves to ensure that the journalists kept a respectful distance and didn't crowd her. "Yes, Dario and I have known each other since we were young. We used to be very close. I was also close to his mother. I always thought that we were going to get married, but ever since Miss Winslet appeared, his attitude towards me has become much colder." As she spoke, Evelyn adopted a sad look. When Evelyn mentioned Jade's name, she glanced over at her with a nasty expression, and several of the reporters turned around and looked at Jade judgmentally. Episode 478, Unlikely to be Boring. Violet looked on with some confusion. "I don't understand what that Evelyn woman is doing, but I'm confident that Jade wouldn't try to steal someone else's fiancé. It's just not the person that I know her to be," she thought. "She's got to be lying. Also, Dario and Jade are already married, so it doesn't even make sense to claim that he was engaged to her. It looks to me like Evelyn is the one who's trying to snatch Dario away from Jade, she thought. Considering she's meant to be from a family with a good reputation, her behavior is atrocious. Violet watched Evelyn with increasing anger as she answered the reporter's questions. She's just blatantly lying. If it wouldn't reflect badly on Jade, I'd go over there and slap her, she thought. Violet looked at Jade's composed expression and said, Jade, how are you staying so calm? How can you listen to her lying about you and Mr. Foster like that without saying anything? Jade looked back at her and smiled. Don't worry, Violet. Let her enjoy her time in the limelight. She's saying that black is white and white is black. When the truth finally comes out, everything she says now will come back to haunt her. Violet nodded and smiled appreciatively at the cleverness behind Jade's words. Then a look of doubt flashed across her face. She's a good actress, though, Violet observed. How can you be so sure that her lies will be exposed? The reporters look like they believe every word she's saying. There's no hurry, Violet, Jade assured her. The truth will come out. The event is about to start. We'd best go in. We can deal with this matter afterward. With that, Jade smiled and walked toward the stadium. If I know Dario, he'll already be aware of all this, and he'll have a plan to deal with it, she thought. There's no problem in this world that he can't solve when he wants to. Caroline watched Jade with respect. She's dealing with this very well, she thought proudly. She's turning out to be brave, resourceful, and calm under pressure. I think I underestimated her. Evelyn doesn't stand a chance of getting away with this. Evelyn, who was still talking to the journalists, watched Jade leave. She didn't react at all, she thought bitterly. She just ignored me and left as if I wasn't even here. She'd expected Jade to challenge her and defend her relationship with Dario. She'd arranged for the reporters to take photos of Jade as she shouted at her, so that Jade could be made to look unreasonable and aggressive. But Jade hadn't fallen into the trap. Evelyn was furious. How dare she just ignore me like that, she thought. I won't let Jade win. I won't let her have Dario. As Jade entered the stadium, she was amazed to see that the crowd was enormous. Decadent Lady had received a lot of media attention, and Jade's fans had turned out in large numbers to see her and show support for her. Jade could hear fans shouting her name, and some people in the crowd even held up signs with her image on them. Miss Winslet is here. We love you, Jade. Jade, you're the best. From outside the stadium, Evelyn could hear the screams of adoration for her enemy, and she sneered with hatred. I didn't realize she was that popular, she thought with jealousy. What's so good about her? She's nothing but a fraud. I'm 1,000,000 times better than she is. Jade was surprised to receive so much support, especially after there'd been such a scandal online. She smiled warmly at her fans and waved excitedly as she was led to her assigned seat. She had a good view of the large stage that had been set up in the center of the stadium. She was surprised when Diane sat on the guest stage. Diane caught her eyes and waved at her in a friendly manner. She then smiled and walked over and sat down in the seat next to Jade's. She leaned in close to her and whispered, I've seen the gossip about you. Don't worry. We'll make sure that you come out looking fine. We have enough connections to make sure that it doesn't do you any harm at all. Jade smiled at her brightly. Thank you, Diane. That means a lot to me. There's no need to thank me, Diane said. We'll be family sooner or later, and in a family, we look out for each other. Also, our company has investments in this movie. I wasn't going to come today, but after all that nonsense online, I wanted to be here to show some support. By the way, I heard about the accident while you were filming. How are you? Are you hurt at all? We'll be a family sooner or later, Jade repeated in her head. She felt joy that Diane had said that, and she smiled happily. I finally feel like I have a family. Jade felt like she was about to cry out of happiness, but she managed to compose herself enough to say, I'm fine, it was just a few scratches. Diane nodded, relieved to discover that Jade wasn't badly hurt. Diane usually didn't attend film events as she found them boring, but she had decided to go after reading about both Jade's accident and Evelyn's efforts at destroying Jade's reputation. She was prepared to support Jade if it became necessary. When Diane saw Evelyn enter the stadium, she realized that the event was unlikely to be boring. I always treated Evelyn like she was my sister, Diane thought disappointingly. I never expected that she would stoop this low to get what she wanted. So, Jade, are you and Dario working hard? Diane asked with a mischievous smile on her pretty face. Working hard at what? Jade asked, confused. Don't pretend to be so innocent with me, Diane chided her. You know that Grandpa can't wait to meet his great-grandson. Jade stiffened and blushed as she realized what Diane was insinuating. She didn't know what to say, so she looked down toward the floor. Diane smiled and looked at her with mischief in her eyes, but she didn't ask any more questions. It seems my future sister-in-law is very thin-skinned and innocent, Diane thought. No wonder Dario told me not to corrupt her. Episode 479. Difficult Questions. A band began to play to liven up the atmosphere. After a couple of songs, the actors from the movie were invited onto the stage. As the lead actress, Jade was called up first. As she stepped onto the stage, a particularly bold reporter shouted to her, "Miss Winslet, it's been reported that you and Miss Harper are love rivals and that you stole Dario Foster from her even though she was engaged to be married to him. Is that correct? Did you seduce him to steal him away from her?" The crowd was stunned to hear such a hostile question. Evelyn, who was sitting on the guest stage, raised her chin and looked at Jade provocatively. As the story had appeared only very recently, most of the onlookers weren't yet aware of it, and after an initial silence, there was the distinctive sound of gossiping from the crowd. I didn't expect anyone to bring this up here, Jade thought. I was sure that it would wait until afterward. It seems like Evelyn just can't wait to embarrass herself further. Jade had ignored the reporter's question, so she asked more. "Why won't you answer the question, Miss Winslet? Is it because you feel ashamed of your actions?" There was another awkward silence. She's trying to embarrass me by questioning me in front of my fans, Jade thought. She took the microphone and replied in a calm and collected voice. "I think you should ask Miss Harper this question." Just as Jade had finished speaking, a different reporter ran to where Evelyn was sitting and said, "Miss Harper, did you and Mr. Foster really grow up together? Is it true that Miss Winslet ruined your relationship?" Evelyn smiled proudly and was about to answer when Diane walked swiftly toward her and took the microphone from the reporter's hand. "It's not true that Miss Winslet destroyed our relationship between my brother and Miss Harper, because Miss Harper and my brother were never engaged," Diane said confidently. "In fact, Miss Harper and my brother are cousins. They would hardly be engaged to be married now, would they?" Evelyn was shocked when she heard Diane speak. "I never expected that Diane would do this to me," she thought sadly. "We used to be like sisters." Evelyn felt deeply jealous, and she looked at Diane with a hurt expression. Why has everyone who loved me turned against me since Jade arrived? She's stolen everything from me, and they're all protecting her, Evelyn thought, feeling immensely betrayed. Diane was well known not just as the CEO of Adele Barraque, but also as Dario's sister, and her word was respected. Evelyn felt her credibility slipping away. The reporter sensed Evelyn's change in fortune and took advantage of the situation. "Miss Harper, is what Miss Foster said true? What's going on?" she asked. Evelyn decided that it was too late to back down, so she turned to Diane defiantly and said, "How can you lie so openly like that, Diane? Can you honestly say that your mother never talked about me being a daughter-in-law?" Diane was shocked to be called a liar. They had once been very close, and she felt sorry for her cousin. It's like she's gone insane, Diane thought. The crowd looked on intently, wondering which of the three beautiful women on stage was going to speak next, and what revelation would come out. The reporters watched with bated breath, cameras in hand. Wealthy and privileged women displaying a public feud in front of the media had the potential to make excellent news. Diane thought back to when Evelyn had pushed Jade into the water. Dario was furious then. If Evelyn keeps trying to harm Jade, God knows what he'll do. I wish Evelyn would just cut her losses, she thought. Last time, he let it go unpunished because the Harpers and the Fosters are so close, but he won't let it go this time. Evelyn doesn't realize that I don't want her to get hurt. The three women looked at each other, but no one said anything. The members of the press waited, confident that one of them would eventually say something inflammatory. After what seemed like a long time, one of the reporters raised a microphone in front of Jade and said, "Miss Winslet, can you please tell us what's going on? Miss Harper says that she was going to be married to Mr. Foster. Is it true that you've stolen her fiancé?" Jade smiled and calmly said, "I really think that you need to ask Mr. Foster. Surely he can clear this up easily." She then looked directly at Evelyn and said, "Don't you think so, Miss Harper? If, as you say, you were engaged to marry Mr. Foster, then why don't you ask him to verify your claim?" There was a distinct look of panic on Evelyn's face as she realized the gaping hole in her grandmother's plan. Hilda had arranged everything for her. She had arranged for stories of Evelyn and Dario to be widely reported and for the reporters to ask all the right questions. But if Dario denied her version of events, she would be utterly discredited. Diane looked on with pity. Evelyn had called her a liar in front of so many people, and Diane has chosen to ignore the insult because she still felt sorry for her. They had grown up together, and she didn't want to make her downfall any more severe than it needed to be. The reporter looked at Evelyn and asked, "Miss Harper, is what Miss Foster said true? Are you and Mr. Foster cousins? If so, are you really asking us to believe that you were his fiancée?" Evelyn didn't know what to say, and the reporter continued. "How long were you romantically involved with Mr. Foster? When did Miss Winslet interfere with your relationship?" he asked. Episode 480, The Revelation. Under normal circumstances, Jade wouldn't have picked a fight with Evelyn, but this time it was too much. "I'm tired of her bullying and lying," she thought with an angry frown. "If I don't stand up for myself now, she'll keep on coming after me, and I'll always need Dario to protect me." After the reporter had asked Evelyn for details of her supposed relationship with Mr. Foster, all eyes were on her. She was garnering a lot of hostile glances from Jade's fans, who weren't pleased with her accusations. She squinted at the glaring lights, wondering how things had gone sideways so quickly. "Why are they all staring at me?" she thought, feeling irritated. "They should be staring at Jade. As far as they know, she's Dario's mistress." The MC looked at the confrontation on the stage with growing concern. "They'll start hitting each other if this keeps up," he muttered under his breath. "We don't need this kind of drama. It'll only hurt the ratings of the decadent lady." Quickly, he picked up the microphone and said, "Dear friends, today is all about the movie, so if you have any questions, please get them ready. As soon as the trailer screening is complete, we'll give you time to talk with the stars. Now, let's move on to the next segment. After all, that's what you've all been waiting for." Reluctantly, the reporters stopped their questioning because they knew that there would be a lot of dissatisfaction if they continued to interrupt the screening. After all, the fans were here to watch the trailer on the giant screen that had been set up, and they wanted to hear from the actors afterward. When the screening commenced, the audience let out a collective gasp. Instead of scenes from the trailer, they saw a man in a black suit sitting on a chair, surrounded by the media. "Who is that?" someone exclaimed. "He's incredibly handsome." "He doesn't seem to be a part of the cast," another person replied. "Maybe he's a supporting actor of some kind." "No, that's Dario Foster, the CEO of the Milliken Agency." Someone had recognized him, and word spread like wildfire through the crowd. People started shouting and pointing at the screen. Jade started in surprise when she saw her husband. Questioningly, she looked at Diane, who smiled and said, "Looks like the person of the hour has arrived to set the record straight. I knew that he wouldn't let Evelyn get away with this." When Evelyn saw Dario on the big screen, she turned pale and started to tremble. "This is not good," she thought anxiously. Dario hadn't said anything yet, but just the fact that he had chosen to appear like this with such grandeur had her very concerned. He was sitting on a luxurious sofa, his demeanor calm and almost regal. He faced the screen, his dark eyes betraying no emotion. His surroundings intentionally didn't give any clue as to his location, further adding to the mystery. He was surrounded by a large group of reporters, some of whom were broadcasting live. "Whatever happens next will be shown right across the country," Evelyn thought with concern, as she watched the reporters ready their microphones. Then the questioning began. "Mr. Foster, can you confirm that Miss Harper was your childhood sweetheart and is now your fiancée?" one of the journalists asked Dario. "Mr. Foster, rumor has it that Miss Winslet tried to break up your relationship with Miss Harper. Is that true?" another reporter asked simultaneously. The audience held their breath, waiting for Dario's response. Everyone wanted to know the answers to these questions. Evelyn's face was white as a sheet, mirroring the dread she felt inside. Quietly she muttered, "No, Dario, you can't do this to me." She was terrified of what he was going to say. His face was a mask of ice, and his voice was steady when he started speaking. "As I've already said, there is only one woman in my life, and that is Jade Winslet. As for Evelyn Harper, she is my cousin, but that is all." He seemed to be staring directly at her from the big screen as he added, "I have never been romantically involved with Miss Harper, and anything she may say to the contrary is a lie. She's been trying to sabotage my relationship with Miss Winslet from the start with her despicable allegations." His words shocked everyone in the stadium, and it seemed like every eye was trained on Evelyn. She felt like she wanted to die. "He thinks I'm despicable?" she wailed in her mind. "He hates me." She couldn't believe that he had expressed his dislike for her so publicly during a live press conference that was being broadcast across the whole country. "Dario, why are you so cruel?" she whispered disconsolately. "You've just turned me into a nationwide joke." Jade sat in her chair, smiling faintly, while a few tears of joy trickled down her face. She was incredibly moved by Dario's declaration. "Never in a million years did I think he would make a statement about our relationship in public," she thought. "Now I won't have to worry about Evelyn ever again." She could feel the mood of the audience shifting at his words, their attitude toward her doing a 180. Then the reporters descended on Evelyn. Episode 481. The Jewelry Box. "Miss Harper, you said you had a relationship with Mr. Foster, but he's denying it. How do you explain this?" one reporter asked, aggressively shoving the microphone in her face. "Miss Harper, were you aware of Mr. Foster's involvement with Miss Winslet? Were you intentionally trying to sabotage their relationship?" The questions were coming at her hard and fast, and Evelyn stared at the crowd in disbelief. "I didn't make anything up," she shouted. "I've been telling the truth. Dario and I have been promised to each other since we were kids. Everyone knows that." She was yelling now, having lost control of her emotions completely. "So you're saying you were engaged to Mr. Foster after all?" the aggressive reporter asked. Dario shot the man a murderous glance and retorted coldly, "I believe I would know to whom I was or am engaged, and I can assure you, it's not Evelyn Harper. She is my relative, and as such, my family treats her with respect, but nothing more. At no point was marriage ever discussed." His clear, factual statements stood in stark contrast to Evelyn's emotional outbursts. "It sounds like it was all wishful thinking on her part," one of the reporters commented. "Yes, it does seem like the whole engagement story was fabricated by her as a way of getting attention," another person agreed. Disdainful murmurs were running through the crowd, and Evelyn knew her reputation was ruined for good. "I called this press conference today because I'm about to make the most important announcement of my life, and I've chosen to do it in public," Dario said, with a solemn expression. He looked up, and it seemed to Jade that he was looking directly into her eyes through the screen. Her breath caught, and her heart started racing. "Something really big is about to happen," she thought excitedly. Slowly, he took out a jewelry box and opened it in front of the reporters. Everyone gasped when they saw the content of the box. It was a dowry ring, a unique engagement ring that a person could only purchase once in their lifetime. It was a symbol of true love and was customized specifically for the one and only, with their personal details. This ring was a clear statement of Dario's intention to spend the rest of his life with Jade. The diamond set in its center was gigantic. It was called the Star of the North and weighed in at an incredible 30 carats. "Good heavens, that rock must be worth millions," someone gasped. "At least $30 million, I'm guessing," another person replied. "I'd like to take this opportunity to formally propose to Miss Winslet," Dario said, facing the cameras, his calm face a stark contrast to the pandemonium that broke out at his words. "Oh my goodness, he's proposing to Jade on camera. That's so romantic. I hope she accepts. I mean, how can she not?" Everyone was speaking all at once, and before long, a collective shout ran through the audience. "Accept! Accept! Accept!" Jade was so stunned by the scene unfolding before her that she didn't know what to do. Even though they'd been married for quite a while, seeing him declare his love for her so openly and in front of so many people moved her immensely. "I can't believe how much effort he's gone to for this proposal," she thought, tears of joy brimming in her eyes. Evelyn was also crying, but for an entirely different reason. She felt like her heart had been shattered into a million pieces. First, he destroyed me, and now he's pouring salt on the wound by proposing to her in public, she thought, feeling devastated. "Jade, I'm going to propose to you in person and in front of all these people," Dario said, still looking at the screen intently. "I hope you'll say yes." The crowd was still shouting, "Accept! Accept! Accept!" Dario continued, "Jade, please close your eyes and count down from 60. I'll be by your side within a minute." She looked up in surprise. "What? How can he get here in 60 seconds? She thought in disbelief. Diane, who was sitting next to her, said, "You just need to trust him, Jade. He won't let you down." She nodded and closed her eyes, just as Dario said, "Let the countdown begin." The screen went dark, and people started counting down. 60, 59, 58. As soon as Jade had closed her eyes, a group of people came running into the stadium. They seemed very organized and acted like they were in a choreographed performance. Each of them was holding a rose in their hand. Violet, who was watching from the stands, was stunned. "This is incredible," she thought, a bit enviously. "He's really put out all the stops for this proposal. Jade is very lucky to be marrying such a great man." Jade could clearly hear all the commotion around her, and she was tempted to peek, but Diane held her hand in front of her face, anticipating Jade's curiosity. "Just be patient," she whispered. "I promise it'll be worth the wait." Jade sighed and listened to the fans continuing the countdown. 29, 28, 27. The people in the stadium disappeared as quickly as they had come, leaving only the roses behind that had been arranged in the shape of a walkway. Suddenly, there was a noise, and a small helicopter appeared, circling overhead. The door of the chopper opened, and a swinging ladder was released. A man stepped onto it, descending carefully with a bouquet of roses between his teeth. It was Dario. When he reached the ground, he took the roses out of his mouth and began walking up the rose-lined boulevard toward Jade. The whole stadium was filled with the sweet scent of flowers. The crowd went wild, screaming and cheering. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Dario raised his index finger to his lips, indicating the need for silence, and everyone fell quiet. Episode 482. When he went on his knees. Diane got up silently, leaving Jade sitting by herself, surrounded by a giant heart made of roses. Diane smiled and thought, "My brother is an incurable romantic." 3, 2, 1. When Jade heard the last number of the countdown, she opened her eyes, no longer being able to contain her curiosity. The first thing she saw was a handsome man kneeling in front of her on one knee. He was holding the beautiful Dobry ring in his hand and looked at her, smiling. "Jade, will you marry me and stay with me for the rest of our lives?" Dario asked, his voice steady and confident. Jade looked at the helicopter above her and the roses on the ground. She suddenly remembered that he had joked about showering her with 10,000 roses at one point. "He's got pretty close to 10,000 roses on the ground now," she thought, giggling nervously. "I can't believe this is happening. This is the most romantic thing that has ever happened to me." The fans were still shouting, "Except, except, except," but time seemed to be standing still. She was still marveling at the moment, and her husband humbly kneeling in front of her, asking her to be his wife in front of all of these people. "Except, except, except." The shouts finally broke her trance as tears started running down her face. The reporters were surprised at her change in demeanor. They had expected joy, not tears, but they took full advantage of Jade's vulnerability and snapped photo after photo. Everyone had completely forgotten Evelyn, who stared at the spectacle, her face white as a sheet and her eyes full of hate. "Well, Dario, you finally got what you wanted," she thought, her fists clenched in anger. "Now you can finally be together in public and flaunt your love in front of everyone." "Jade, I will take care of you for the rest of your life. Please say that you'll be my wife," Dario said, holding the ring in his hand. Jade was too overcome with emotion to speak, so she just nodded solemnly, and Dario slipped the ring on her finger. Simultaneously, hundreds of pink balloons rose above the stadium. The audience erupted into cheers and shouts as the fans took to their feet. She said yes, she's accepted his proposal. This is the most romantic moment ever. Dario smiled at her and gently wiped the tears from her face with his thumb. In a conspiratorial whisper, he asked, "Well, my beautiful wife, are you satisfied with my proposal? Does it warrant a 5-star rating?" She smiled at his joke and whispered back, "No, it doesn't warrant 5 stars. It should get 100 stars. You've really outdone yourself, my wonderful husband." Seeing her happy smile, he pulled her into his arms and kissed her gently in front of everyone. Jade kissed him back, but she was still a little uneasy with public displays of affection, so she pushed him away after a short moment. The fans cheered excitedly, touched by the tenderness between the couple. Many were recording the events on their cell phones, and soon the social media feeds were filled with news about Dario's proposal. As for the scandals that had previously surrounded Jade, they were quickly overshadowed by the momentous news and all but forgotten. "Well, I think we can go home now," Dario said, looking down at Jade. Her lips were so inviting he wanted to keep on kissing her, but he respected her reluctance to be affectionate in public. "There's plenty of time for that when we get home," he thought with a mischievous grin. Jade nodded, and together they left the stadium. Jade carried the beautiful bouquet of roses Dario had given her and some of the pink balloons. They got into Dario's luxurious limo, and Dario gave the driver instructions to take them back to his place. The stadium audience started to disperse after their departure, when the big screen suddenly came to life again. "What's going on now?" one of the fans asked in surprise. The man who appeared on the screen was the president of one of the largest online news networks in the country, the same network that had previously broadcast the story about Evelyn Harper being Dario's fiancée. He issued a retraction of the story and a public apology to Jade, indicating that someone from the Harper family had used their wealth and influence to force the network into airing the false story in the first place. Episode 483, A Trip to the Hospital. Evelyn stared at the screen in a daze, and Diane sighed helplessly. If she hadn't pushed Dario as far as he did, he wouldn't have gone to such extraordinary lengths to put her in her place, she thought, shaking her head. After the announcement, all eyes were trained on Evelyn, and the mood of the crowd wasn't friendly. People started shouting obscenities and throwing things at her, and it took a concerted effort from her bodyguards to escort her safely into the waiting car. Never in her life had she suffered such humiliation. She sat in the car, crying and muttering to herself. "I don't understand how it's come to this," she whimpered. "Why am I the target here when it's that hussy Jade whom they should hate? This is not how things were supposed to turn out." Given the weight of evidence against her, there was nothing more she could do going forward. "Everyone has discredited me. Dario, Diane, and that big media tycoon. Nobody will believe a word I say anymore," she sighed, feeling completely lost. "Driver, take me home," she instructed the chauffeur. Dario had made sure that Jade had no further interactions with Evelyn, knowing that his kind-hearted wife would likely take pity on her, despite all the damage that Evelyn had done. "I'll make sure that she never has another opportunity to hurt you," he thought, his face grim. "As long as I'm around, your life will be filled with joy and happiness." When they got home, Jade collapsed onto the sofa and sat there, smiling and staring at the ring on her finger. Dario sat down next to her, pulled her into an embrace, and kissed her passionately. "Do you like the ring, my darling?" he asked teasingly. "I noticed that you looked a bit awestruck the whole way home." Jade laughed at his comment and replied, "Of course I'm satisfied, especially since this is the second ring you've given me. It looks even more expensive than the first one. Are you sure I should keep both?" Dario had told her that the first ring had cost around $10 million, and this one had a much bigger diamond. It was almost too big for her small fingers. "Of course you're keeping both of them," Dario exclaimed. "You're worth way more to me than a couple of diamond rings, so they're only a very small token of my love for you." Jade nodded happily, knowing that a Dobry ring could never be returned. She wrapped her arms around him and snuggled into his embrace contentedly. "Thank you for everything you've done for me," she said. "Your proposal was more romantic and memorable than I could have ever imagined. I'm incredibly happy and grateful to be married to such an amazing man. And I must have collected some good karma in my previous life to have met a wonderful woman like you," Dario countered, smiling broadly. They kissed, tenderly at first and then more passionately. Dario grabbed the back of her head and pulled her closer, kissing her even more deeply. His hands began to roam across her skin, and she flushed. "Dario, let's go to the bedroom," she suggested. "Too far?" he replied huskily, as he began undressing her. Soon, they were too busy for further conversation. Quite a while later, Jade had noticed that it had gotten dark. She was tired and ravenous, and gladly agreed to Dario's suggestion that he prepare some food. She put on a pair of comfortable pajamas and read a magazine on the couch while he cooked. The meal he served was delicious as always, and soon after, they both fell asleep on the king-sized bed, Jade curled up in his warm embrace. The next morning, Jade received a call from the hospital. She answered quickly, worried that something had happened to her grandmother. Iris told Jade to head to the hospital immediately and refused to give a reason when Jade pressed her. "Just come as quickly as you can," she commanded. Hurriedly, Jade got changed, trying not to wake up Dario, but he was a light sleeper. When he saw her concern, he got dressed and ordered some takeout breakfast. Then he called his driver and gave instructions to take Jade to the hospital as quickly as possible. "I'll go to the agency and get some work done while you're with your grandmother," he said, "but call me if you need anything." While she was en route, Jade received another call from Iris, who asked, "Can you get here any faster?" She knocked on the glass partition and asked the chauffeur, "Is there any way we can speed things up? I really need to get to the hospital as fast as possible." The driver nodded and floored the accelerator, ignoring speed limits and the occasional stop sign. In short order, she had arrived in the hospital parking lot. She ran inside and up the stairs to the floor where her grandmother's room was. But when she got there, she found the room empty. Confused, she looked around and saw the nurse who'd been on the shift the last time she had visited. "I'm looking for my grandmother, Iris," Jade said. "Has she been moved to a different room?" "No, Miss Winslet, your grandmother checked out just a little while ago," the nurse replied. Jade's eyes widened and her heart jumped into her throat. "Checked out? What do you mean? Where did she go?" she asked anxiously. "I'm not sure where she went," the nurse said. "She checked herself out, and last I saw, she was heading for the parking lot." Jade turned around and ran back to the parking lot the way she had come. Sure enough, she saw an older woman standing next to a black Volkswagen and recognized her grandmother. Episode 484. The Ulterior Motive. Jade saw someone else by the car, helping her grandmother load her things into the trunk. "That's my mother," she thought, surprised. "What's she doing here?" When Charlotte saw Jade approaching, she quickly closed the trunk and stepped toward her, smiling. "Oh, I'm so glad you're here," she said by way of a greeting. "Now we can go." "Go where?" Jade asked, confused. "Why, we're going home, of course," Charlotte replied. "Your grandmother was just discharged, so we're going home to have a reunion dinner. I've already prepared a lovely meal for all of us." Jade looked at her troubled. She didn't trust her mother and wondered what Charlotte's real motive was for inviting her for dinner. Charlotte took in Jade's dubious expression and said, "Darling, I know you're still mad at me, and rightly so. I abandoned you as a child, but I'm really trying to make it up to you. Please just give me a chance. It would be so nice if the three of us could spend more time together." As if discussing the weather, she then added casually, "Actually, your grandmother and I were talking about the three of us moving in together. Wouldn't it be nice if we could be a family again?" Jade was shocked by her mother's presumptuousness. While she was open to re-establishing a relationship, she had no desire to live with Charlotte. Besides, Dario and I are married, so I'll be living with him, she thought. I can stay with him now and again, but certainly not full-time. Charlotte saw that Jade was very lukewarm about her suggestion, so she tried even harder. Taking Jade's hand, she looked at her and pleaded, "Please, try to forgive me. I know I messed up, and I'm trying really hard to make it up to you." She was almost in tears, and Jade felt embarrassed by her emotional outburst. "Oh my goodness, Mum, please don't make a scene," she said, blushing. "Then you will promise to have dinner with me and your grandmother?" Charlotte asked, her eyes brimming. Iris, who had remained silent so far, finally spoke up in support of Charlotte's request. "Come on now, Jade. Is it really too much to ask to have dinner with your mother and grandmother? Surely you can spare a few hours to spend with a couple of old ladies." Jade knew she couldn't refuse without being rude, so she conceded. "All right, yes, I'll join you for dinner, but please stop embarrassing us all in public," Jade told Charlotte, whose face broke into a smile. "Thank you," she said, and opened the car door. "Let's go then." When they arrived, Jade noticed that Charlotte's house was in a very high-end neighborhood and that the house itself was quite large. That's worth at least $5 million, she thought, taking in the beautiful view, the professionally equipped kitchen, and the large garden. She's been living well all these years while she wasn't around for me. "This is lovely," her grandmother said. "I certainly wouldn't mind spending more time here." "And you're more than welcome to," Charlotte replied warmly. "It would be my pleasure to have you and Jade live here." Jade was quite surprised by her mother's welcoming attitude and the sincerity with which she extended the invitation. "There are even new house shoes for each of us," she thought, looking at the 3 sets of delicate slippers lined up at the front door. They had just sat down on the comfortable leather couch when Jade received a call from Dario. "Excuse me a minute," she said, as she stepped out onto the large deck and answered the call. "Hi, darling." "Where are you right now?" Dario asked curiously. Jade considered for a moment and then decided to tell the truth. "I'm at my mother's house, and my grandmother is here too." She had expected a response from him after this startling news, but he remained silent. "What about you? Are you still at work?" she asked to break the uncomfortable silence. He didn't answer her question. Instead, he asked, "Was your mother at the hospital when you got there?" His question surprised her. How did he figure that out, he wondered. It's almost like he's psychic, either that or he's got security trailing me to make sure I'm safe. Why didn't you tell me you were going to your mother's house? Dario wanted to know. I didn't actually know I was going to end up coming here, Jade replied, feeling uncomfortable. She knew he wanted to join her, but she didn't like the thought of Dario meeting her mother. She'll just find some way to use him, she thought. That's probably why she showed up at the hospital today. She saw the news about our engagement, and now she's going to take advantage of his status or wealth or both. As if reading her mind, Dario said, "There's nothing much going on here today, so why don't I pick you up and we can head home?" Panicked, Jade said quickly, No, that's okay. You don't need to come get me. I'll make my way home a bit later." Dario was taken aback by her rejection. "Is something wrong? You sound like you don't want me to come to your mother's house." Jade took a deep breath to calm herself and replied, "I just know how busy you are, so I don't want you to trouble yourself with giving me a ride." Dario chuckled and said, "Jade, I'm your husband. It's no trouble at all. Also, I'd finally like to meet my mother-in-law. Don't you think it's about time that she gets to know me?" Jade knew what he was saying made perfect sense, and she couldn't think of another excuse, so she just suggested lamely, "Why don't we talk about this later tonight?" He didn't respond for so long, Jade was starting to panic. Finally, he asked brusquely, "Why don't you want me to meet your family? Are you embarrassed to be seen with me?" She could tell he was hurt, having misunderstood her reluctance to introduce him to her mother. Hastily, she explained, "Of course not, Dario. You'll definitely meet my family soon. It's just that right now is not the best time." "And why is that?" he asked lightly. She knew that whenever he spoke in this tone of voice, he was upset. She grabbed the phone more tightly, her palms sweating. Biting her lip, she said, "There's some stuff going on with my mum right now that I need to sort out. I can't tell you the details, but I promise you that you'll get to meet her as soon as possible, okay? And then I'll explain everything to you." Episode 485, A Family Dinner. No. Dario rejected her request. Jade's emotions were all over the place, but she knew she needed some time with her mum to sort out how she felt. "I'm begging you, Dario, don't come over. I'll be home soon, and we can talk then, okay? Be back by 7, or I'll start to worry." "All right, I'll see you soon, I promise," she said, with a sigh of relief. She hung up, and then jumped as she discovered that Charlotte was standing just behind her. When did she come in? Jade wondered. And just how much did she hear? I don't like her eavesdropping on me. "What are you doing?" she asked with a hint of accusation. "Oh, I just came to offer you some fruit." Charlotte cast a furtive glance at the phone in Jade's hand. "Were you talking to Dario? Is he looking for you?" She had no intention of answering, but her mum hooked an arm through hers and said conspiratorially, "I saw you two on the news. You look so happy. Is he busy today? It would be lovely to have him over to discuss the engagement." Jade pulled her arm away, her eyes full of disdain. "It's him you want to see, not me, isn't it?" Charlotte looked cowed by Jade's frosty glare. "Of course not. I saw that you'd accepted his proposal, and I want to be part of my daughter's wedding. I want to meet his parents. There's no need," Jade interrupted. "You don't need to worry about my marriage." With a guilty expression, Charlotte said, "How can you say that? I'm your mother. Of course I have to worry about these things. I know you hate me and that I haven't been there for you, but right now I'm really trying to be a good mum. Can't you give me a chance to make things right?" Jade felt a pang in her heart. Could she just be acting, she thought? Or could this be the mother-daughter bond that I'm feeling for the first time? "I don't know if I can ever accept you as a part of my life," she said haltingly. "You abandoned me for 20 years. She'd often wondered what she would do if her mother came back. "I thought I'd be able to forgive her," she thought, "but now my heart feels dead. How can I trust that she just isn't using me?" Charlotte sighed helplessly. "I understand," she said. "It will take some time to earn your trust. Will you stay and eat with me and your grandmother? Get to know me a little. I'd love to spend some more time with you." It was nearly 7 o'clock already, and Jade had promised to be home, but how could she neglect her grandma like that? She'd been so busy with work recently that she hadn't made time for her at all. She decided to stay and eat with them. Charlotte brought dishes from the kitchen, and the three of them sat around the table and ate together. It almost felt like a happy family reunion. When they had finished, her mum cleared the table and began to load the dishwasher in the kitchen. Iris grabbed Jade's hand. "Sweetie, You can see that she's really trying to earn your forgiveness, can't you? I know she's done a lot wrong, but it was all because of that terrible Stevens family, and she's been miserable for a long time about how things worked out. I'm begging you, Jade, give her a chance." Jade wrestled with herself but finally nodded her head. How can I deny my grandma anything, she thought, after she raised me and looked after me so well? All right, Granny, I'll try. By 8:30, Dario was really worried. He was sitting in the back seat of a Ferrari parked outside Jade's mother's house, staring at the building intently, his phone clutched in his hand. In the front seats, David and Lucas exchanged a glance. "Why don't you call her again, Dario?" David said. "It might not be the best idea to just storm in uninvited." Dario just glared at him. "I've called her countless times on the way over, but she won't answer," he thought. "I never phone anyone more than once, but I'll explode if I don't speak to her soon." "No need," he said. "We're going in." They'd been arguing this point for the last hour. He wasn't going to argue anymore. Throwing open the car door, he stormed up to the house. It was Iris who answered the door. The old lady looked at him in shock. "Oh, you're Dario." He nodded politely. "It's good to finally meet you, Mrs. Williams. I'm here to pick up Jade." "Oh, she's just gone to sleep. She decided to stay at her mum's tonight. I'm so sorry to bother you all." Dario's expression hardened. Asleep? So early, he thought. Seeing from Dario's face that something wasn't right, Lucas stepped up to the door and said, "Please go and wake her up, ma'am. We've come specially to collect her." Episode 486, The Sleeping Beauty. "Oh, yes, of course," Iris said, but Charlotte came into the hall and intercepted her. "Welcome, Dario," she said politely. "You're Jade's mother?" he asked. "Her biological mother, yes." She didn't look surprised by his arrival. In fact, she looked like she'd been expecting it. She glanced at Iris. "Jade's sleeping, Mum, so don't disturb her. You must be tired too. Sit down and rest. Dario, you and your friends are welcome to come in, though I'm sure you're not used to homes as small as mine." They all trooped into the front room, and Lucas put a wrapped gift on the coffee table. "This is a little token of Dario's appreciation." Charlotte smiled. "How kind. Is there anything his money can't buy?" "Oh, yes, the one thing he came for. I'm afraid Jade is staying here tonight." "Did Jade decide that, or did you make the decision for her?" David asked grimly. "Jade is followed everywhere by reporters these days," Charlotte said calmly. "What would happen if they saw her doing something untoward? Something like going to a man's house in the middle of the night? Her reputation is very important." "So what if they're living together before they're married?" David said. Charlotte looked surprised but quickly regained her composure. "Living together? Surely you don't want reporters finding out about that." "You're a smart woman," David told her. "You must have guessed that they've been living together for a while, and no one has found out about it yet." "That won't do," Charlotte exclaimed. "Just because you've kept it under wraps so far doesn't mean it won't be uncovered in the future. For the sake of my daughter's reputation, she should stay here. That's so much more convenient." Dario fixed her with one of his trademark cold stares. "It doesn't seem at all convenient to me. You haven't seen her in 20 years. I'm the most important person in her life. Even if you're her biological mother, you can't force her to stay here." His words were barbs, but she kept a polite smile fixed on her face. "You want to force her to leave? You are the only one who's forcing her to do anything." Dario knew that was true. "I know Jade too well," he thought. "She told me she'd be home by 7, and if something has come up to change her plans, she definitely would have told me. This sort of neglectful behavior isn't her style." Charlotte sat primly on the sofa. "You're not her husband to be making decisions for her like this. She should stay under her mother's roof until she's decently married." "Well, if you put it like that, we should take her right away now," David said gleefully. "Because they're already married. They have certificates from the registry office, so you have no reason to keep her here." Her eyes widened in surprise. "I didn't realize things had gone that far between them," she thought. But that's even better. I can factor that into my plans. So what if you have a piece of paper? In the eyes of the world, you aren't married yet, and we're talking about her reputation here. You haven't had a proper wedding. What will people think when they find out? She put a dramatic hand to her brow. Dario, please, my daughter is sleeping peacefully now. Don't disturb her. David raised his eyebrows. I'd like to give her a good tongue lashing, he thought. Shame I have to be a gentleman. Who would have thought that someone so unreasonable could produce a gem like Jade? It doesn't make sense, he said, for Jade to have gone to bed at 8:30. Did she go to sleep on her own, or did you force her? Charlotte was flustered, but careful not to show it. Maintaining a smile, she said lightly, She felt sleepy after dinner. She's had a long day. What's so strange about that? David smirked, obviously not believing her. You're trying to take us for a ride. You don't have to be so rude, she said. David huffed. Hey, Dario, are you going to wake Jade up or just carry her to the car? Dario's actions were enough of an answer. He started to fling open doors, looking for the bedroom. Charlotte stepped in front of him, shouting, This is my house. What do you think you're doing? I'll report you to the police. He didn't even try to be polite. Get out of my way. She crossed her arms. You're going too far, being so rude to me. No matter what, I'm still her mother. From behind her, David said, Don't overestimate yourself. It's because you're Jade's mother that he's being so polite. You should see what he's like with other people. She stared up into Dario's dark eyes, and his aura of power made her shrink into herself. Episode 487. In a Coup. Charlotte gritted her teeth and pretended to be calm. Dario, I'll only say this one more time. I'm Jade's mother, and she should be living with me, not you. You can't take her. Please leave. How can you stop your son-in-law from collecting his wife? David yelled. Don't you know who he is? He's richer than some entire countries. How can you not be happy to have a son-in-law like that? Dario lowered his dark eyes so he was staring straight through Charlotte. I'm not leaving her here, she said casually. Don't be so angry. What mother doesn't worry about her children? You didn't ask for my permission before marrying my daughter. I'm not going to blame you for that. But if you want to have a proper wedding, then you will do things right and get my blessing first. Are you trying to get him to pay you off? David asked incredulously, eyes full of disdain. She comes back after 20 years just to use Jade as a cash cow, he thought. This is too much, but Dario won't care. The money doesn't matter to him. But Charlotte wasn't after money. I know you're rich, but I don't need your payouts or wedding gifts, she said. I only need you to help me take down the Stevens family. Are you talking about the Stevens group? Dario asked, intrigued. That's right. The company and the entire family. When their business collapses, you can easily roll it into yours. What axe have you got to meddle with them? Dario asked. I hadn't intended to bring the Stevens group down, he thought. But I never knew about this bit of bad blood either. Interesting. Charlotte had no intention of telling him the truth. She just said casually, That's for me to know. Just think of this as an engagement present. You destroy the Stevens group and install me as replacement CEO. Simple. Now I understand why Jade didn't want me to come here, he thought. She was trying to prevent her mother from getting her claws into me. Replace them? You have big dreams, David said. I believe she's not after Dario's money now, he thought. She wants an entire company instead. The Stevens Group was a major company, although nowhere near as large as Dario's corporation. But still, not many people would ever dream of reaching so high. If you can't do it, then don't even think of marrying my daughter, she said. After a pause, Dario said firmly, You don't have any right to negotiate with me. Jade is the only person in the world who can make me do anything. If this is what she wants, then I'll take on the Stevens Group without hesitation, and I'll happily do my best to make you the richest woman in the world. But only if it's Jade who asks me. I'd pluck the moon out of the sky if she asked me to. He walked towards the last closed door, which had to be the bedroom. Lucas stepped in front of Charlotte so she couldn't intercept him. What are you doing? She shouted as he entered the bedroom. You're trespassing on my property. She pushed Lucas, but he was like a wall. You can't take my daughter away. She pounded on his chest, but Lucas said, You're not going anywhere until Dario comes back. Charlotte flopped angrily onto the sofa, and David muttered to Lucas, I thought that a sweet girl like Jade would have a nicer mother than this. It's lucky she didn't inherit her character, or everyone would hate her. Charlotte heard his words, and her face turned the colour of a plum. I mustn't offend him, she told herself. He's Dario's friend, so he must be an important person. She swallowed her anger. Iris followed Dario into the bedroom. Lucas didn't stop her, because he knew she truly loved Jade. Jade was sprawled across the bed, sleeping like the dead. All the shouting hadn't even made her stir. What did she eat before she went to sleep? Dario asked Iris urgently. We all ate dinner together, then we chatted for a bit, and Charlotte brought her a glass of water. That's when she said she was sleepy. She's been filming all day, you know, so I brought her in here to rest. Dario's eyes went cold, and Iris took a frightened step back. Sorry, he said. I didn't mean to scare you. Go and rest, and I'll bring Jade to visit you again soon. That would be so lovely, dear, she said. I'm so glad Jade has found such a wonderful man, she thought. I don't have to worry about her anymore. Her mother, on the other hand, I'll never be able to stop worrying about that girl. She went out, closing the door behind her. Episode 488, Charlotte's Interference. Dario tiptoed to the head of the bed and sat beside Jade's head, gently stroking her hair. His heart ached. If she knew that her mother had drugged her, she'd be heartbroken, he thought. How could she value Jade so little that she'd come back into her life only to use her? I wish Jade had let me come and get her earlier, but now, at least I know the reason. He didn't try to wake her up, nor did he carry her out to the car. He sat quietly by her side and waited for her to awaken as the three people in the living room sat in an uneasy stalemate. It was after midnight when Jade began to stir. She blinked in confusion, then jumped as she noticed a figure beside her on the bed. It was dark, but the moonlight filtering through the curtains illuminated a handsome face, and she relaxed. She turned on the bedside lamp and rubbed her eyes. I thought I was at my mother's house. Oh, why are you here? I'm definitely still at my mum's house, she thought, but why is Dario here? How did he know where I was? Wait, how long have I been asleep? It's already dark. What time is it? 12:10, Dario said. She gasped. I was only going to nap for a few minutes before going home, she thought. She grabbed Dario's hand. I'm so sorry. I promised I'd be home by 7. I don't know why I fell asleep. It wasn't on purpose. He pinched her nose gently, his eyes full of love. It's okay. Are you properly awake now? She was even more embarrassed, seeing how easily she was forgiven. Ducking her head, she said, Yes, I'm sorry I kept you waiting. I must have been expecting too much of you recently, and that's why you were so tired you dozed off here. Next time, I'll try to restrain myself. He winked at her and held out a hand to help her up. But I promised, she thought, ashamed. I'm the one who fell asleep, and he's the one taking all the blame. It's not fair. But I'm so lucky to have such an understanding man. With him, I have the whole world. Charlotte jerked out of a doze when they came out of the bedroom and leaped up to block their exit. Jade, please don't tell me. You're going to go home with the man the public believes to be a bachelor. You're a celebrity now. Think what the papers will make of it. Don't you care about your future anymore? David looked down his nose at her. If she wasn't Jade's mum, he thought, me and Dario would both have ripped her a new one. Jade smiled at her mother. I don't care about my reputation. Dario is what matters. And we're husband and wife. If I don't live with him, then what? You expect me to come and live with you, the woman who abandoned me? Go girl, David thought. I didn't know you had it in you. That's the only way to deal with someone like Charlotte. No, Jade, you're wrong, Charlotte insisted. Having a piece of paper from a registry office isn't the same as having a wedding, and not for people in such prominent positions as the two of you. Jade set her jaw, so Charlotte tried a softer approach. Don't you want us to learn to be a family again? You said you'd try to forgive me. Think about your grandma. She'll miss you. She needs you here to take care of her. She let a tear well up in her eye, knowing how soft-hearted Jade was. Jade frowned and couldn't help hesitating. I do want to spend more time with Grandma, she thought, but I don't trust Mum. What game is she playing? Before, she seemed to want me and Dario to be together so she could use the power of the foster family. Why has she suddenly changed her position? Iris also thought her daughter had gone too far. Shah, Jade just wants to go home now. Stop making a fuss. A wedding is just a ceremony. It doesn't matter. Look how much they love each other. How can you bear to keep them apart? I know that Dario paid my medical bills, she thought, so his affection for Jade must be genuine. That's enough to make me take his side. You don't understand, Mum, Charlotte said. Lots of rich people just like to toy with women's feelings. Is that why he's keeping their wedding secret? Without a wedding, there's nothing to prevent him from throwing her over. I'm doing this to protect Jade. David and Lucas both winced in anticipation of Dario's reaction. Sure enough, his face turned black with rage and his eyes sharpened to steel spikes. But he didn't say anything, not wanting to embarrass her in front of Jade. You all go and wait in the car, he said. I'll be there in a minute. Jade held his hand nervously. Come on, Dario, let's go together. Episode 489. The Qualities of a Mother. How could my mum be so rude to Dario? Jade thought. Will he be very angry, and if I leave first, will she say something even worse to him? Dario shot Lucas a look, which he understood clearly. He took Jade's elbow and steered her out of the front door. Let's go and leave Dario to it. He'll take care of everything, he reassured Jade as he took her to the car. No, I have to go back. David stepped in front of her. Don't you trust Dario? He won't get into an argument with you, Mum. He'll just help her understand why the two of you are right together. He's doing it for your own good. And so you never find out what her true colours are, he thought. If Jade knew that her mother dosed her with sleeping pills as part of her bid to take over the Stevens Group, she'd be devastated. Dario would definitely protect her from that. Dario was, at that very moment, letting Charlotte harangue him. What are you trying to do to my family? I'm her mother, and you're driving her away from me. She wanted to chase after her daughter, but this man's intimidating presence kept her rooted in place. Are you even worthy of being called a mother? Dario asked. She stopped pretending to smile. You should learn to be more polite, or I'll tell Jade everything. Jade's smart enough to see through your bullshit. Angrily, she replied. No matter what, I'm her biological mother, and you owe me respect. Did you think about being her mother when you were drugging her and using her? He asked calmly. Somehow, that bland delivery was more terrifying than anger would have been. Whatever do you mean? She asked, trying not to show her inner panic. You know very well what I'm talking about. Drugging her? How could I ever do such a thing? Dario narrowed his eyes, and she was reminded of a wolf focusing on its prey. She took an involuntary step back. If you weren't her mum, I'd make you pay for that. But you should know how precarious your position is. Charlotte's face crumpled. I didn't expect him to be able to see right through me, she thought. He even guessed about the sleeping pills. I thought I could manipulate his feelings for Jade, but he's not that easy to deal with. I knew he was rich, but I didn't know how forceful a character he is. She schooled her face into calmness once again. What do you want? Dario knew then that he'd guessed right about the sleeping pills. He narrowed his eyes. If you want to destroy the Stevens Group, I'll help you. If you want control of the company, you can have that too. But I have one condition. If you won't agree to that, the negotiation's over. Her expression brightened, and Dario lowered himself onto her sofa like a king ascending his throne. I want you to treat Jade as a mother should, he demanded. Cherish her, shower her with love, and make sure it's sincere. You owe her that. I won't allow your manipulations to hurt her. Charlotte was stunned. He's so selfless, she thought. How unexpected. Her heart, shriveled and blackened for so many years, began to come back to life. After a long pause, she said, Jade is truly fortunate to have met a man like you. I envy her, she realized. Jade's world is full of love, whereas mine is only hurt and betrayal. She took a deep breath and allowed a hint of real love to grow in her heart. I agree to your request. Even if you didn't demand it, I'd do it. I will love her sincerely and never use her again. Dario's expression finally softened a little. I hope you can. Truly, I do. He left, and Charlotte was alone in her silent apartment. She sat on the sofa, and her thoughts were consumed by loneliness. I loved her so much while I was pregnant, she thought. I wish she knew how sorry I was that everything fell apart. Full of guilt and longing, she curled up against the cushions and wept. If it wasn't for the Stevensons, we'd have been a happy family all these years, she thought. I wish I could just watch her marry a perfect man and raise a family with him. But I can't let go of this burning desire for revenge. Once again, the Stevensons are destroying my happiness." As soon as Dario got into the car, Jade began to pepper him with questions. "What did Mum say? Was she rude to you? Did she ask for anything?" "I'm sure she's trying to use Dario," she thought. "I should never have left them alone together. I bet she asked him about the Stevensons." But Dario only gave her one answer. "She didn't ask me for anything." Episode 490. No touching. Because Dario's answers were consistent, Jade didn't ask any more questions about his conversation with her mother. She leaned into his arms and greedily breathed in the warm and familiar scent of his body. She said guiltily, "Dario, I'm really sorry. How could my mother say something like that?" "It's okay," he told her. "You don't need to apologize. There's no reason for you to be sorry. Do you understand?" Jade nodded. She curled into his embrace like a little bird, her face full of happiness. David, who was sitting nearby, gave them an envious look. He wanted a woman who would happily snuggle in his arms. Why was Dario lucky enough to find such a good woman? Probably because he's so handsome, he thought. He was jealous of handsome men. When they arrived home, Dario called Lucas and asked him to find out why Charlotte held a grudge against the Stevens family. That done, he headed upstairs to take a bath with Jade. They changed into pajamas, and she curled up with him and fell asleep. It was rare for Dario not to pester Jade for sex. He just stayed curled up with her the entire night. Jade thought that he finally understood. The routine of bath, pajamas, and then bed with no sex continued for a few days. The set for the King's Palace was still undergoing repairs, so Jade was basically on vacation. Caroline got the occasional requests for Jade to do an endorsement, but that usually just took an afternoon. She was home every evening. On the 5th day, Dario drew the bath as usual. When Jade came out of the bathroom, Dario was sitting on the bed. When she slipped into her pajamas, he turned off the light and said, "Okay, let's get some sleep." Jade picked up her script and walked to the door. "You go ahead. The repairs are almost done at the studio, so we'll be filming soon. I need to memorize my lines," she said. She thought perhaps Dario would be upset that she needed to work and wouldn't share his bed. But he just said, "Okay, don't stay up too late. You need sleep too." Then he turned off the bedside lamp and went to sleep. Jade, annoyed, huffed. Instead of studying her script, she powdered in the hall for half an hour. Then she got a drink of water and paced the living room for a while. "Is he messing with me?" she wondered. She tiptoed back to the bedroom and leaned over the bed to take a closer look. She discovered that he was, indeed, sound asleep. "He hasn't even tried to touch me for 5 days. What's going on?" she thought. It wasn't like Dario at all. Jade was discouraged. Many thoughts rushed through her head. Is he no longer attracted to me? She was tempted to wake him and ask. But she couldn't bear to disturb his sound slumber. Finally, she heaved a sad sigh and crawled into bed next to him. After a week of waiting, Jade finally got the call to come to start filming. Because she had to catch a plane, she got up at 5 in the morning and began packing. She even made breakfast to share with Dario before she left. But he was still sleeping, so she decided she would eat alone. Halfway through her breakfast, Dario walked into the kitchen dressed for the day. He stared at the food and asked, "Why didn't you wake me up to eat with you?" Jade felt a little embarrassed as she hurriedly crammed a forkful of eggs into her mouth. She explained, "I'm leaving soon. Caroline is picking me up. The flight's at 9. Dario frowned. "What? You don't want me to see you off?" Jade nodded and said lightly, "Well, you're so busy. I don't want to be a bother. Caroline is already downstairs. Your breakfast is in the oven. I'll get it for you." "No need," Dario told her and walked over to pull the plate from the oven. Jade quickly finished her toast and began to drag her luggage to the door. Dario frowned and put down his fork. He walked to the door and took her into his arms. He said in a low voice, "Are you that anxious to escape from me?" Jade pressed her face against his chest and said, "No, I really do have to catch a plane. The early flight was cheaper." Then she pushed out of his embrace. "Why are you trying to save money? I can fly you out of my plane whenever you want," Dario said as he held her hand. Jade looked despondent. She didn't want him paying for her career. "It's fine. Besides, Caroline is flying with me. I don't need you to send me off every time or always fly with me. What if something happened to you? I need to be able to take care of myself," she explained. She looked down at Dario's hand in hers. Then she continued softly, "Dario, I don't want to always rely on you. I need to become more independent. I want to be able to take charge too. I want to be a strong woman." Dario raised his eyebrows. So you want to be a strong woman?" he asked with a slight smile. Isn't that what you want? Do you really want me to be afraid all the time and not be able to take care of myself? She asked him with a serious look. Dario stared into her eyes. He knew that she was changing and becoming more self-sufficient every day, but part of him still wanted that innocent wife who relied on him to protect her. Otherwise, what's my purpose? He wondered. Episode 491. Roommates. As he gazed into Jade's sparkling eyes, Dario finally said, "All right, be careful. Text me when you land." Jade nodded and dragged her suitcase out the door. "I will. Caroline, let's go." "Hang on. At least let me get that." Dario sighed and reached for her suitcase. Then Jade suddenly said, "Dang it, Dario, I forgot to grab my script. Would you go get it for me?" Dario went back into the house and headed for the bedroom to look for the script. However, he couldn't find it anywhere. When he returned to the front door, it was wide open. Both Jade and Caroline were gone. He rolled his eyes as he watched the taxi drive away with the two women and their luggage. He smiled wryly and said to no one, "Okay, little Miss Independence, have a safe flight." Dario did check in with Caroline to make sure they had made it to the airport so that he could relax. He looked at the breakfast still sitting on the table with a woeful expression. Dario went to the office early. Lucas was surprised to see him. He hadn't thought that Dario would come in since Jade was going to Los Angeles that day. It was odd that Dario hadn't used his private jet to take her, but Lucas didn't say anything. He did report on the issue between Charlotte and the Stevens family. He also discovered a few other things about Charlotte's past. There was definitely some kind of connection between her and the Stevensons. Once Lucas had finished his report, he said, "The Stevens group really needs to be destroyed. But do you really want Charlotte to replace them? That doesn't really fit into our plan. She's been gone for 20 years. Now, she's been using her daughter to try to seize power again. She's arrogant and ruthless, and I don't trust her. Charlotte is nothing like Jade. Fortunately for you, Jade was brought up by her grandmother. That's why she's so kind." Lucas frowned as he looked at the papers in his hand. According to the file, Jade's mother disappeared right after Jade was born. What kind of mother disappears for 20 years and then comes back? It seems suspicious. Dario narrowed his eyes. "Continue the investigation. We need to find out why she left and where she's been all this time," he ordered. "Yes, sir," Lucas replied, and then he quickly left the office. The set of the King's Palace had not only been repaired, but major reinforcements had been added everywhere. While it all made Jade feel safer, she realized it must have been an expensive undertaking. The owner of the studio must be quite rich, she thought. I'm grateful that they were willing to make it safer. As she sat in her dressing room, she sent a quick text to Dario saying that she'd arrived safely. In the past, Jade had been the only one to use her dressing room, but when she walked in with Violet, she discovered they had moved an extra dressing table into the room. She was surprised to see Miranda sitting at it. Miranda had been discharged from the hospital the day before. Apparently, she was no longer the little actress nobody noticed. She had risked her life to save Jade and was now well known in the media. By her act of bravery, she had found a way to make herself famous overnight. It was rumored that her salary had been doubled, and everyone on the set was being very polite to her. She was certainly receiving top star treatment. Violet looked at Miranda unhappily and said, "What are you doing here? Did you go to the wrong dressing room?" Miranda pointedly ignored her. She looked at Jade and gave her a bright smile. "Miss Winslet, no time long see. The director thought I should use this room now. I didn't think you'd mind," she said condescendingly. At that point, some makeup artists and stylists arrived. 2 were exclusively assigned to Jade, and the other 2 walked toward Miranda. Violet was surprised to see that a minor actress had an exclusive makeup artist and stylist. What was going on? Apparently, Miranda's status had risen several levels, but Violet still felt that it was strange. No matter how popular she had become, she still only had a minor role. Does she really need all this? I wonder if she bribed the director, Violet thought. Jade gave Miranda a gentle smile and said, "Why would I mind? How are you feeling? I still can't thank you enough for saving me." Miranda smiled back and said dryly, "I did what anyone would have done." Changing the subject, she said, "Oh, I heard you accepted Mr. Foster's proposal. Congrats. You'll have to let me be a bridesmaid." Jade felt like there was something behind her words, but she answered politely, "Oh, well, we haven't set a date yet. I think it will take us quite a while to work out the details." After that, The two women started getting ready. Although she didn't say anything, Violet watched Miranda uneasily. She didn't think that the woman was as simple as she appeared. I think there's something devious behind her smile, she thought. She's always cozying up to Jade, but why? When they left the dressing room, the director called Miranda over to discuss the show. Violet overheard him tell her that he wanted to add more scenes for her. Apparently, he now wanted this B-grade actress to play the part of one of the king's mistresses. This was a much bigger part than her original role. Violet frowned. Miranda had become more popular with the director as well. At noon, Caroline brought a special lunch for Jade. Jade thought that it tasted a lot like what she'd been fed on the set of Decadent Lady. She wondered if it was the same chef. Had he followed her to this set? As they ate, Caroline said, "So, in 3 days, there's a fashion show that wants you, but it will mean traveling abroad. Let your husband know that it's a good opportunity to make yourself known internationally. Opportunities like this don't come along very often." Although Dario owned the Milliken agency, Caroline handled Jade's endorsements and contracts. Dario had done this to keep himself separate from Jade's career. He didn't want her to think that her success was because of him. He wanted her to achieve her dreams on her own. Jade nodded as she finished her lunch and said, "I'll tell him." Episode 492, In Another Man's Arms. Jade looked at her manager with curiosity. "By the way, Caroline, do you know what Dario's actual job is at the Milliken agency?" Dario had been hiding his real position from her and had simply said that he handled the money. Jade had assumed that he worked in the financial department, but once she found out how rich he was, she began to suspect he did something else. Caroline deflected the question and said, "That's something you need to ask your husband." Jade could tell from Caroline's answer that she wouldn't get any more information from her. She assumed Dario had a higher position at the company, but she couldn't figure out which one. The filming that day was complicated. They didn't finish until after midnight. Jade dragged her exhausted body back to the hotel. When she entered the empty room, she felt lonely. She missed Dario's touch. She dropped her purse on the bed and took out her phone. She had assumed that Dario would call her at the end of the day, but all she saw was a 2-word text. She resisted the urge to phone him. Jade put the phone down and went to take a bath. She had turned off the ringer, so she didn't hear a call that came in while she was bathing. When she came out, she discovered the phone was dead. As she plugged it in, there was a knock at the door. Her eyes lit up. She thought Dario had come to surprise her. She slipped her pajamas on and went to open the door, but it was not Dario. Instead, a few members of the cast were standing there. "Jade, don't go to sleep yet. The director has asked us to come back. He's decided to make some changes and wants to go over them now. He's waiting for us downstairs," one of the actresses told her. Jade rubbed her tired eyes and said in frustration, "But we just left. Can't it wait? Why is he making changes now?" "We don't know either. He made some last-minute decision and said to come down as soon as possible so we can review the changes and start filming first thing in the morning. Let's go." Jade took a moment to change and joined them at the elevator. Half an hour later, Dario's handsome figure arrived at Jade's door. When he inserted the room card and stepped inside, he found that there was no one there. A towel and pajamas were laid out on the bed. It appeared she would be back soon, so he decided he would just wait. He went over to close the door and heard a woman's voice in the hall. "Dario, why are you here?" asked Miranda. He turned to face her and said coldly, "I think the bigger question is why are you here? It's pretty late for you to be looking for Jade, isn't it?" Miranda's heart broke when she heard Dario speak to her so coldly. "It's none of your business why I'm here. Where is she? Isn't she in there?" Miranda pushed past Dario and walked into the room. She saw that he was here alone. Dario remained at the doorway. Once Miranda saw that Jade wasn't there, he said firmly, "Get out." "Dario, why are you like this with me? You've only met me once. You could try to be more polite when you talk to me. I risked my life to save you. Is this the thanks I get? People like you never appreciate what others do for them. It's like you expect everyone to treat you like you're the center of the universe. If I'd known that you were this kind of person 5 years ago, I think I would have let you die there." Miranda turned away with tears streaming down her face. She didn't want Dario to see the tears, so she rushed out of the room and ran down the hall. Dario watched her back as she got in the elevator. He recalled the scene 5 years before and the girl who had risked her life to save him. His face looked sad for a moment, but then he regained his composure. If it meant keeping Jade safe, it didn't matter what other people thought of him. He called Caroline and asked if she knew where Jade was. At that moment, Jade and Robert Radcliffe were downstairs with the director. The scriptwriter and the producer were discussing the upcoming changes. They were complicated and took a while to explain. It was 3 a.m. by the time they finished. The director told them to go back and get a few hours of rest before they began filming the next day. Jade and Robert had rooms on the same floor, so they walked back together. "These changes are going to make tomorrow a long day," Robert said. "I'll bet we shoot until midnight again. Hydrate and get as much sleep as you can so you don't wear out." "I will, thanks," Jade said. She knew Robert had years of acting experience and considered him her mentor. They continued to discuss the changes to the script while walking to their rooms. Halfway there, a woman rushed by and knocked Jade into Robert. Jade began to fall, but Robert was able to catch her in his arms. The woman who ran into them never looked up. She murmured an apology and quickly disappeared into the elevator. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Radcliffe. Thanks for catching me," Jade said, still surprised. Robert looked down at her in his arms and said with a smile, "It's okay. I'm always happy to help a beautiful woman in distress." While Jade was stepping back out of Robert's arms, Dario appeared from around the corner and gave them a terrifying look. Jade stared at him in surprise as he yanked her away from Robert. "Dario, what are you doing here?" she asked in confusion. "Finding you in another man's arms in the middle of the night, apparently," Dario said angrily, with his hand firmly gripping her arm. He began to lead her back to her room. As Dario pulled her down the hall, she glanced back at Robert and said apologetically, "I'm sorry, Mr. Radcliffe. I guess I'll see you in the morning." Episode 493. I Can Move. As Robert watched them leave, he saw Dario lean over to Jade and growl, "How dare you talk to another man in the middle of the night? Why weren't you in your room when I got here?" Then he shoved her through the door into her room. Robert smiled bitterly. If it had been anyone other than Dario, he might have challenged that kind of treatment of Jade. But Dario was a formidable man, and for the first time, Robert didn't feel confident enough to try to defend a woman in distress. Jade lay on the bed where Dario had pushed her and watched his chest rise and fall as he huffed angrily. "What were you doing with him at 3 a.m? He asked, as he tried to hold back his anger. But Jade saw the rage in his eyes and hurried to explain. "The director made some last-minute changes and wanted to go over them with us. Robert and I were just coming back from a meeting with him. What you saw now was just an accident. A woman rushed by and bumped into me. I tripped and Robert caught me. That's all that happened." Jade waited nervously for Dario to reply. The longer he stayed silent, the surer she was that he didn't believe her. She stood up cautiously and grabbed his hand. Then she said quietly, "It really was an accident, but if it would make you feel better, next time I trip, I won't let anyone catch me. I'll just crash to the ground." Dario's face softened. He pulled her into his arms and held her so tight she almost suffocated. Then he said, "All right, how about if I run a bath for you? Go get undressed." Jade's eyes lit up and she smiled. She hugged him back and said happily, "That means you believe me." "Oh, I never doubted you," Dario said seriously. She hit his chest angrily and said with a pout, "You're a horrible person. You acted as if I was cheating." She thought for a moment. He must have seen that woman bump into me, so he knew all along that it had been an accident. Dario looked at her and said seriously, "Well, I was upset. You're my girl. When I saw you in the arms of someone else, of course it upset me, even if it was just an accident." "Well, if that's the way you're going to act, even if you know it's an accident, you'd better hope I never find you too close to another woman. You don't want to know how I'd behave in those circumstances," she threatened. Dario looked into her big, round eyes and thought she looked cute when she was trying to threaten him. He pulled her delicate chin toward his face and kissed her fiercely. "There are only 3 women who I will ever get that close to," he said. "My mother, my sister, and you. Don't worry. I won't do anything to test your behavior." After that, they soaked in the tub for a while. Dario got up first and put on his pajamas. Jade followed him out with a determined look. She didn't put on her pajamas, but stayed wrapped in her towel. Then she deliberately dropped that towel, exposing her naked body. To her chagrin, Dario didn't even look at her. He simply switched off the lamp and said lightly, "Good night." "What is going on?" she thought uncomfortably. She crawled onto the bed and stretched out next to him. She lightly stroked the hair on his chest with her fingers and leaned into him. As she began to untie his pajamas, Dario reached out and grabbed her wrist. He said gently, "Darling, it's very late. You need to get some sleep. You start filming in just a few hours." Jade bit her lower lip and laid her entire body along his. She frowned. After a while, she gritted her teeth and whispered, "Dario, lately you haven't been really meeting the qualifications of a good husband." "What are you talking about? I just showed how jealous I can be. I even scolded you," he said, with an ironic smile. But Jade was angry and didn't pick up on his teasing tone. She bit her lip again and finally cried out, "But what about making love to me? Isn't that one of your duties as a husband?" Her face had turned bright red. Months ago, she wouldn't have dared talk about sex with him, let alone demand it. But his behavior had forced her to say something. When Dario heard her speak about making love, he was filled with both love and lust. He realized how far he had pushed her. He reached out and pulled her close to him. He nibbled her earlobe and whispered in a devilish voice, "Wow, do you want it that much?" Jade felt his warm breath on her face. The smell was fresh and familiar. She inhaled deeply and looked up. Only then did she realize that he had been teasing her. She pounded his chest and yelled, "Yes, I want it. I've been wanting it for days." Dario raised his eyebrows and continued to tease her. He said regretfully, "But I didn't bring anything for protection. We can't. You don't want to get pregnant, do you?" After a moment of confusion, she stuttered, I could take the pill in the morning for precaution." Dario held her wrist tightly but said tenderly, "No, I don't want you using that. You don't know what the effects might be. I'm okay if I need to wear a condom for the rest of my life. I don't want you to do anything that might harm you." Jade thought that it might have been one of the most romantic things he had ever said to her. She had started to worry that their relationship was failing. But she realized that he still loved her and couldn't bear to let anything hurt her. Then she had a thought. Weren't they in a hotel? She quickly hopped out of bed and found 2 condoms in a bathroom drawer. She ran back to the bed happily and held them out to him as if she was presenting a treasure. "Look, Dario, we're all set," she said excitedly. Looking at her beautiful face and body, he desperately wanted to pull her onto the bed and make love to her. God only knew how he'd managed to keep his hands off her the past few days. He hadn't expected her to be so proactive. Apparently, his attempt to get her to ask for what she needed had been successful. He was surprised by her initiative to find the condoms. He laid back on the bed and pretended to be exhausted. "But I've been so busy this week. I've been on planes for hours. I can barely move." Dario had just wanted to tease Jade. He hadn't expected her to straddle him and say, "That's okay, I can move." Once the words had left her lips, Jade gave a look of surprise. Never in a million years had she thought she would ever say something so brazen. She'd always been so shy. But when Dario saw her take control, how could he hold back? He smiled and let her make the move. Episode 494, Something in the Water. Dario kissed Jade firmly but then asked, "Darling, tell me, do you really want to do this now?" Jade jumped off him and cried out in frustration, "Yes, I want you. That's what I've been telling you. But if you don't want to do it, then forget it. Leave. Go home and get some sleep. Alone." She tried to hit him, but Dario reached out his hand and grabbed her wrist. He pressed his lips to it and then pushed it above her head. As he pressed against her, she could clearly feel that he wanted her. He had been holding back. He buried his head into the crook of her neck, and she felt an electric shock course through her body. Still buried in her neck, Dario panted, "My darling, in the future, if you want to make love, just tell me. Otherwise, how will I know? I never want to push you. I just want to give you whatever you need." Dario's straightforward explanation made Jade blush. She realized that he hadn't been initiating sex for the past week because he had been wanting for her to say that she wanted him. How could he do that to her? It was cruel, an unusual punishment. "Bastard," she thought with a scowl. Dario grinned and kissed her deeply. It had been a while since she'd been completely naked in his bed. Her skin was soft and smooth. Now that she had said how much she wanted him, his passion flamed. Their 2 bodies intertwined. As Dario stroked her body, Jade began to take the lead and touch him in new ways as well. They made love for the remainder of the night. After days of not touching her, Dario had a lot of pent-up energy he needed to release. He wanted to do it again and again. Jade didn't complain as her desire peaked over and over again. The feeling was simply indescribable. But the next day, Jade was exhausted. Dario had switched off her alarm, so she slept soundly all through the morning. It was afternoon when she finally woke up. Strangely, although there was supposed to be an early shoot that morning, she hadn't received any calls from the director or anyone in the crew. At 1 p.m, sunlight shone through the gap in the bedroom curtains and onto Jade's face. She stretched her body out contentedly and looked out the window. Lazily, she picked up her phone and checked the time. Suddenly, she sat up and stared at the phone in a panic. "Oh my God, it's already afternoon," she cried. As she sat up, she grimaced in pain. Perhaps she had pushed herself too hard the previous day. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" she heard Dario ask. "Dario, why aren't you in Washington?" Jade asked in surprise as she rubbed the sleep from her eyes. Dario gently raised her chin and looked into her eyes. "What? Now that you got what you needed from me, you just want to toss me away like a piece of trash?" he said, teasing her. "Dario, what are you talking about? I'm not that kind of person. What I meant was, don't you need to go back to work today?" she asked. "Well, I thought it was important for you to see your husband the moment you open your eyes, so I've been waiting for you to wake up," he explained. Jade felt a surge of warmth and leaned forward to kiss his lips. "Oh, sweetheart, thank you. Thank you for waiting," she said. "Oh my, I need to hurry and get to the set." "Don't worry, Caroline did some rescheduling. You can go in after we eat some lunch." Dario called room service, and they soon brought up a sumptuous meal. Now that they had gone public, Dario could drop Jade off at the entrance to the complex. When his Jaguar drove up, it caused a huge commotion, making Jade feel embarrassed. After dropping her off, Dario flew straight back to Washington, while Jade got to work. There was a scene where Jade was shown in the bath. While she wasn't completely naked for the scene, she did need to be naked from the chest up. Caroline quietly pulled Jade to the side before they filmed the scene. She looked around and asked softly, "Did your husband come to see you yesterday?" "Yes," Jade said as she nodded shyly. She didn't ask how she knew. "Did he leave any traces on you yesterday?" Caroline asked cautiously. Jade immediately understood what she meant. She thought for a moment and replied quietly, "I'm not sure. There's a good chance he did." Caroline thought for a moment, nodded, and then said, "You can't shoot today's scene. I'll find a body double for you." While her manager knew Jade and Dario were together, no one in the studio was aware that they were married. Caroline was afraid that if she had those kind of marks on her body, it might affect Jade's reputation. She finally found someone whose shoulders were very similar to Jade's. That way, Jade would only need to show her face. The director agreed to use the double. However, just as the filming was about to begin and the body double had settled into the large bathtub filled with rose petals, the actress suddenly jumped up and screamed in terror. "Ah!" "What happened?" the director asked nervously. "There's a snake in the tub," she yelled as she crawled out, completely naked. She was scared out of her wits as crew members wrapped her in a blanket. As she stood there shaking with fright, she told them she had felt a sharp pain in her right leg. When they looked, they found what appeared to be a snake bite. "Oh my God, it bit me. I've been bitten by a snake. I'm going to die," the actress cried and fainted from fright. When they looked toward the tub, the entire crew saw a water snake crawl out. Everyone was shocked. Violet pulled Jade away from the set. "Oh my God, why was there a snake in the tub? What happened? Where did it come from? How would a snake get into a place like that?" Violet asked, patting her chest to try and calm her heart. Episode 495. Who Planted the Snake? Caroline was standing at the door, scowling. "You're right. How could there be a snake on set? Someone wants to harm Jade." The snake had obviously been put there for Jade. If she had not had hickeys, then there would have been no body double, and she would have been the one lying on the floor. The other actress was immediately rushed to the hospital. Fortunately, the snake wasn't poisonous, and it turned out to be nothing more than a fright. Everyone was relieved to hear that the body double would make a quick recovery. The incident had shaken the whole crew. However, and the director had no choice but to pause filming. He was furious at the delay and questioned the props team. They claimed no knowledge of the snake and couldn't work out how it had gotten onto the set. The director ended up firing them all. When Jade was in the dressing room getting changed, Miranda arrived and asked with concern, "I just heard about the snake. Were you scared?" "Don't be silly," said Violet. "Who wouldn't be afraid of such a big snake?" Miranda just rolled her eyes at her. As she began to remove her makeup, she asked Jade meaningfully, "You've never used a double before. Why today? I heard that poor girl was scared out of her wits." Jade was embarrassed and didn't know what to say. Violet, who'd never liked Miranda, was unhappy with what she was implying. "Hey, what are you trying to say? No one knew there'd be a snake in there. It was just an accident." "It's another disaster," replied Miranda with a strange smile. "This time, a snake. Who knows what'll happen next? But Miss Winslet seems to lead a charmed life. It's as though she can see the future and avoid any danger, like how she used a double today. Maybe she has a sixth sense?" Violet grew furious. Miranda was intimating that Jade had known about the snake and had deliberately asked someone else to take her place. She was about to make an angry retort when Caroline walked in. As soon as she saw Miranda, she spat out 2 words. "Get out." Miranda sighed and said, "You can't kick me out. It's my dressing room too. Anyway, you're just an agent." "If you want to get kicked out, I can make that happen. If you're going to slander Milliken actors, then you can leave right now." Caroline was adamant. Her eyes bored into Miranda. Miranda wiped the last of the makeup off her face and stood up. "Miss Winslet, your agent has quite a reputation. Let's see what happens." Then she gave Jade a frosty stare as she headed to the door. "Perhaps you won't be so lucky next time," she said, as she slammed the door behind her. Jade found it hard to believe that this was the same woman who had shyly asked for her autograph the first time they had met. Was Violet right in thinking that she would do anything to get ahead? "What's wrong with her?" said Violet. "She must be jealous of our Jade and wants to replace her." "What's the matter, Jade? Why aren't you removing your makeup?" Jade was worried. Could it be that someone really wanted to harm her on purpose? She couldn't believe that Miranda would do such a thing, but if not her, then who? "Have I offended someone here?" she wondered. Caroline narrowed her eyes thoughtfully, but said nothing. Late that afternoon, filming resumed. In her room, Jade inspected the marks on her body and noted that they were already fading. It's as though Dario had known his limits. So, she decided to go ahead and shoot the bathing scene herself. She applied waterproof concealer to the marks, and her skin looked fine. Even though everyone worked hard to make up for lost time, it was 2 a.m. by the time the filming ended. When Jade got back to her room, Dario wasn't there. She assumed he wouldn't be coming back and sent him a text to say that she had finished for the day. Then she took a shower and went straight to bed. Meanwhile, Miranda had also returned to her room. As soon as she turned on the light, she saw a handsome man sitting on her bed. She didn't scream. She just found it strange. She gave him a puzzled look. "What are you doing here?" It was Dario. He glanced at her and then spoke coldly and calmly. "I warned you that if you tried to harm Jade, I'd show no mercy. Quit the movie immediately." Miranda realized why he'd come. It was because the double had been bitten by the snake. He must have thought that she was responsible. Why would he think that? She thought. Her face darkened. "Dario, what right do you have to tell me to leave?" she snapped. "I've earned my place in this movie, and how dare you accuse me? The fact that Jade was almost bitten by a snake has nothing to do with me. I suggest you leave quietly or else face the consequences. As long as you leave the shoot, you can ask me for any compensation you need." Dario's voice was icy. "I told you it wasn't me. Why are you accusing me? Whether you like it or not, you have to leave. I won't let any harm come to her." His unrelenting coldness was agonizing. The only reason he had come to see her was to confront her. Miranda smiled bitterly. "Dario, this is so unfair," she whined. "Why are you treating me so badly and Jade so well? I saved your life, but you spurned me. Jade's stolen everything from me." "Why doesn't Dario love me?" she asked. "Isn't his love supposed to belong to me? Why has another woman claimed what should be mine? It's not fair." Miranda's words gave Dario pause, but only for a moment. "I've told you before," he said harshly. "I can give you anything you want except for my feelings." Miranda stared intently at him until he looked away. Episode 496. One Condition. Miranda was silent for a long time as she thought things over. "All right, Dario, I can give you what you want, but on one condition. When I need you, you must help me. You owe me 2 lives now." Dario frowned. That was an exorbitant demand. Her request sounded small, but in reality, it extended his promise infinitely. No one knew what would happen in the future and what kind of request Miranda would make. Accepting this was like accepting a time bomb. "As long as you give me your word that you will never deliberately approach Jade in the future and will never seek to hurt her by any means, I can reluctantly agree to your conditions. You still think I was responsible for the snake? She said bitterly, with tears in her eyes. Do you really think I'm that sort of person? You're an animal, you ungrateful bastard. Her words infuriated him. He felt like strangling her on the spot, but controlled himself. Do you want me to show you proof? The steely resolve in his voice destroyed her last shred of hope. She pointed a trembling finger at him. I'm disappointed in you. If you don't want to promise me anything, fine, but let me tell you, I will never let you go. I'll destroy your reputation, and Jade's too. I'm afraid you don't have the power to do that, he replied coldly. Miranda sneered. Do you really think you can stop me? There's not a soul in the world who can guarantee total protection. It doesn't matter how powerful you are, there's always a chink in your armor. Her threats meant nothing to him. He stared at her implacably. All right then, I'll just wait and see how you ruin my reputation. Miranda felt it was pointless to continue to talk to him. She flung open the door and rushed out in despair. Once she'd gone, Dario sighed and headed towards Jade's room. Miranda was clearly hurt and angry, but as long as he could ensure Jade's safety, he felt it was worth it. Even if every single woman in the world called him an ungrateful bastard, he wouldn't care. As Jade was sleeping, she suddenly felt a warm body beside her. She woke up and threw herself into Dario's arms. Even in the dim light when she opened her eyes, she could see his gentle expression. Why are you back again? It takes too long for you to go back and forth like this. You must be exhausted. It's probably better if you don't come back tomorrow. She cuddled him greedily. She felt conflicted. She both wanted him to stay away and wanted him to be with her. Dario stroked her hair and kissed her forehead. Without me, you wouldn't be able to sleep. I'd travel far to be with you for just a few days or nights, even if I can only be with you a few hours. It's worth it. His words moved her deeply, and she gave him a passionate kiss. She loved having a husband like him and was becoming more proactive with him, knowing that he liked her to take the initiative. Jade was willing to do anything for Dario, but she felt bad that he had to keep traveling to visit her. She wanted to fulfill her dream and then settle down and have his babies. You're so good to me. If you ever left me, I would die. Don't talk nonsense. I'll never leave you. And I'd find you even at the end of the world. You give me life. If you die, I die. The next day, Miranda quit the movie. In itself, this was not news. It was a small role and she could be replaced. But then a rumor began that she'd been fired because she had upset another actress. That got everyone guessing who this actress was, which embarrassed the leads. Jade knew it had nothing to do with her. What was there to be afraid of? But she thought it rather strange that Miranda had left so suddenly, just the day before the director had said that he wanted to give her more scenes, and her pay had also been increased. Why would she leave when this was a good opportunity for her? She couldn't understand it. That afternoon, Violet overheard someone saying that Miranda had been chased out because she had offended a certain Miss W. Rumors started spreading on Instagram that Miss W thought Miranda was hogging the limelight. There weren't many people on the set whose names started with W. Since the others were not well known, everyone guessed that Miss W was actually Jade. After Caroline heard the gossip, she immediately made a phone call. Very quickly, the Palace team put out a press release on their social media channels, reporting that Miranda had broken her contract and that it had nothing to do with the rumoured Miss W. In addition, they issued a warning that would take legal action against anyone who continued to spread malicious rumours. Since Jade was very popular, this soon dampened down the rumour mill. Violet thought Miranda had quit out of spite and was trying to drag Jade down with her to generate more publicity. She warned Jade about that despicable, scheming woman. Jade ignored the commotion, leaving everything to Caroline to deal with. She believed in her own ability, and as far as Miranda was concerned, her conscience was clear. Episode 497. Change of Plans. Because the Milan Fashion Week was rapidly approaching, and Jade was planning to attend, she worked extra hard to complete all her scenes. On the day of her trip, she was at the hotel packing her bag before leaving for the airport with Caroline, when she received a call from Dario's sister, Diane. Hi, Jade, I heard about the trouble on set. Are you all right? Jade was happy that Diane was calling her to see if she was okay. This kind of familial love gave her warm, fuzzy feelings. Diane, I'm fine, don't worry. There was a body double shooting a scene for me and she ended up in the hospital, poor thing. It's good that you're okay. Now listen, the day after tomorrow is the anniversary of our grandmother, Helen's death. It's really important to Dario, as he was so close to her, and we'll be holding a small memorial service. Are you coming with him? Did he tell you about it? What? No, I had no idea. Didn't he tell you? Diane asked in surprise. No way, he said he'd bring you back for anything important like that. Jade's face fell. She thought about it carefully. Could it be because she had told him she was going to Milan for the fashion show? Perhaps he hadn't told her about this special day for his grandmother so that she could travel to Italy in peace. Her eyes flashed in determination, and she told Diane, "Don't worry, I'll definitely be there." Jade had just hung up the phone when Caroline and Violet came to her room to look for her. "Time to go to the airport. The luggage is in the lobby." Caroline was reaching for Jade's carry-on bag when Jade stopped her and said hesitatingly, "Caroline, I don't want to go to the fashion week after all. I remembered that the day after tomorrow, I have something very important to do." Caroline asked no questions. She just gave her a piercing look. "Do you really not want to go?" Attending high-profile events like Milan Fashion Week was a great opportunity to be noticed by the foreign media and would be great publicity for her and the movie. "Really, Jade?" cried Violet. "Just like that, you're not going? What a pity." Of course, Jade knew she was giving up valuable PR opportunity, but she remained firm. "I've thought about it. The day after tomorrow is an important day for Dario. I should be with him." Violet looked wistful. "Jade, you were looking forward to going. Just think of all those celebrities you'd be meeting, so rich and famous. You're giving all that up, and you haven't even married Dario yet. You can go with him another time." Jade smiled and shook her head. To other people it looked trivial, but it mattered to her. Dario would definitely want her to be with him. "Caroline, please cancel the tickets." At the Milliken Agency's Washington offices, a woman wearing sunglasses and a figure-hugging red dress approached the front desk. She asked a few questions and then turned to leave. As she did so, she spotted Lucas in the lobby. She smiled and removed her sunglasses. "Long time no see. What's up?" Lucas looked surprised. "Miss Gray, how did you find this place?" Miranda took out the business card Lucas had given her months ago and said with a smile, "I have your card." Lucas glanced at the card. He had indeed given it to her, but it didn't give his address, just a contact number. He frowned. "Well, what brings you here?" "I came to talk to the company's CEO. I wonder if you could possibly take me to him." In her elegant dress and high heels, she looked $1 million. It was a completely different look from how Lucas had seen her before. She was dressed to kill, and Lucas didn't like it. "Miss Gray?" he asked coldly. "How do you know who the CEO is?" He was puzzled. Very few people knew it was Dario, and he couldn't imagine how Miranda had found him. But there she was. "You just need to take me to see him." She flashed him a winning smile. "Don't forget, I once saved Mr. Foster's life, and he promised me that he would help me if ever I needed it. I'm here to collect." Lucas thought for a while and said coldly, "Come with me." He took her up in the VIP elevator and knocked on Dario's door. Before he could announce her arrival, she flung the door open and rushed in. Lucas anxiously followed her. Dario put down the documents he'd been perusing and looked up. He appeared very calm, as if he wasn't at all surprised by Miranda's sudden appearance. Lucas was about to explain, but he left when he saw Dario dismissing him with a wave. Miranda gazed around the large office with a smile, and then she stepped slowly towards Dario's desk. "You seem to be expecting me, or am I mistaken?" "It was you who spread those rumors, right?" Dario raised one eyebrow and spoke in a cold, deliberate tone. Miranda smiled but didn't answer his question. Instead, she walked around the desk and came up behind him. She ran her hands gently through his hair. Seeing him flinch, she bent down and placed her red lips next to his ear and whispered, "So what if it was me? What are you going to do about it?" Dario swiveled his chair around. His eyes were blazing. "Do you have a death wish?" She smirked. Putting her face close to his, she breathed dramatically. "If I could die in your arms, I'd consider it." Her lips were so close to him that they were almost kissing. His response was an icy stare. The room felt as though someone had turned on the AC. Episode 498. Seductive Confrontation. Miranda resisted the chilly atmosphere. She flicked some papers aside and perched herself on the edge of his desk with her high heels resting on his chair. Then she stared into his eyes. "How come you're not surprised to see me? Don't you care how I found this place? Even your man Lucas was surprised. Now, listen to me. I did as you said and quit the movie, even though the director was going to pay me more. I gave up a great opportunity for you. Now, I'm wondering how you intend to compensate me. How do you want me to compensate you? Dario narrowed his eyes meaningfully. Miranda crossed her shapely legs. There was a glint in her eyes. I want to be your personal assistant, she said. I imagine the salary for such a position can't be too shabby. You really think that's possible? Miranda pouted. Don't turn me down in such a hurry. As your personal assistant, I might be of some use to you. Haven't you always wanted to know who's behind Sam Jemison? I can help you find out. The mention of Sam caused Dario's face to darken, but it also confirmed a long-held suspicion. Who exactly are you? His voice was glacial, but Miranda didn't care. She was used to it. She flashed him a charming smile. Don't you know who I am? She asked sweetly. I saved your life 5 years ago. Don't you want to know who it was who wanted to kill you? Satisfy my conditions, and I'll tell you the answer. What exactly do you want? His eyes were wolf-like, suspecting danger. He wondered what else she knew about the events that had taken place 5 years before. I think you know what I want. When I look at you, I like what I see. A great man like you has money and power, and what's more, you're extremely handsome. You have Jade by your side. Such a pity. But I don't mind playing second fiddle. I'm willing to do anything for you. She winked at him. She brushed a speck of dust from his shoulder. Dario's face was like flint. He spat out one emotionless word. No. Don't be so decisive. Where there's a will, there's a way. She continued to slide her hands over his shoulders, but Dario stood up and deliberately put some distance between them. He made no attempt to disguise his disgust. Are you done? Then scram. His words wiped the smile from her face. She had used all her charm, but the man wasn't moved. He was extraordinary, but the more unobtainable something was, the more she wanted it. Dario, you're so boring. What does Jade see in you? That's none of your business. She slid off the table, straightened her skirt, and fluffed up her hair. Dario, you're going to regret this. One day, you'll be begging me. Then she sashayed out of his office. Dario stared at the door. She was acting differently. Who was she? It seemed that, like Sam, she also knew his real identity. He opened the door and ordered Lucas to keep an eye on her. Meanwhile, downstairs in the lobby of the building, Jade was just pulling up in a taxi. Her plane ticket had been changed, and she had taken the first flight to Washington. She wanted to give Dario a surprise, but she wasn't expecting to give him a shock. As she walked in, she saw a familiar figure. Why is Miranda here? Whispered Violet to Jade, spotting her emerging from the elevator. She half guessed that it had been Miranda spreading rumours about Jade, so she was not well disposed toward her. Caroline also seemed astonished, but kept her composure. Miranda was equally surprised to see Jade, but crossed the lobby to greet her. So, we meet again. Aren't you filming today? Why are you here? Jade is on the books here, Violet said coldly. What's so strange about coming here? What about you? Did your agent fire you? Don't tell me you want to sign a contract with Milliken. Miranda rolled her eyes at Violet and smiled at Jade. Someone especially invited me over? Otherwise I wouldn't have come. Huh? Who would invite you here? Asked Violet with disdain. Who would invite me? I think Jade understands. The higher-ups here wanted to see me, so I graced them with my presence. Miranda looked very pleased with herself. Was she talking about Dario? Jade wondered uneasily. What did she mean by the higher-ups? Miranda just stepped out of the VIP elevator that Dario uses. Was it Dario who wanted to see her? Maybe she's just trying to drive a wedge between us. Why did you suddenly quit the movie? She asked, giving her a penetrating stare. I suggest you ask your boyfriend, Miss Winslet. I used to think that you were a strong woman. It's not so easy to reach this stage without help, but I never expected that you would just use other people. Everything you have is because of him. Looks like I really misjudged you. But I guess the entertainment industry's full of people like you. Violet was easily provoked. Hey, what are you talking about? You're just jealous. Jade got to where she is today through her own talent. Her own talent, huh? You're all so naive. If it weren't for Dario pulling strings, she'd still be acting in two-bit roles of no consequence. Jade struggled to remain calm in the face of Miranda's provocation. Dario introduced me to the director, but after that, it was up to me. Some people are unable to grasp an opportunity even when it's right in front of their nose. Episode 499. Show me your office. Jade had changed. She didn't let other people bully her anymore, nor did she snipe at others from the sidelines. She was telling Miranda that even if she were given a break, she might not be able to match her own achievements. With people like her, she didn't have to be polite. Hearing her ridicule, Miranda felt a moment of doubt. Jade, you're so arrogant. Do you really think that you're so talented? Everything you're wearing was given to you by Dario. And where would you be without him? Nowhere. You came to look for him, right? I was with him just now in his office. It was just the two of us there. She looked very pleased with herself. Anyway, I have to run an errand, so I'm off now. Bye. And with that, she flounced out. Damn that woman, said Violet. Is there something wrong with her brain? The last time she had seen Miranda, she had appeared fairly normal, but now she seemed like a scheming witch. Jade, don't listen to her nonsense. I think she's just jealous of you. Jade turned to Caroline. Caroline, you ought to know where his office is. Can you take me there? Caroline thought for a moment and then walked her to the VIP elevator. When they got out, she didn't take her directly to Dario's office, but took her to the meeting room to wait. Jade waited obediently and was surprised when Dario showed up almost immediately. Dario was equally surprised to see Jade turning up unannounced at his offices. Caroline explained the situation to him. She told him that Jade had cancelled her plans to attend the Milan Fashion Week and planned to go with him to New York. He knew that if he had told Jade about his grandmother, she would have renounced the Fashion Week, which was why he had kept quiet. He hadn't expected her to learn the truth. Jade, why didn't you tell me you were coming? Were you missing me? He gave her a big hug, love shining in his eyes. Jade was less enthusiastic. Why didn't you want me to come? Aren't you happy to see me? Dario noticed the unhappiness in her eyes. He gently touched her cheek and kissed her lips. Who says I'm not happy? I don't always wear my heart on my sleeve, but feel it. It's beating for you. With that, he placed Jade's hand on his heart. Won't you die if your heart doesn't beat? She withdrew her hand, disregarding his sweet words. Why didn't you tell me about the anniversary of your grandmother's death? Were you afraid that I'd give up on Milan? I knew you'd come, honey. Jade frowned, dissatisfied with his answer. She thought he would at least be surprised by her sudden appearance. Then you're unhappy that I'm here. I'll just leave. Seeing how angry she was, he didn't dare to tease her anymore. He pulled her into his arms and nibbled her earlobe. Since you're already here, let's forget about it. How can he just tell me to forget it? She thought. That's such a pathetic reply. She raised her eyebrows and mimicked his commanding tone. Take me to your office. Dario didn't panic when he heard her words. Instead, he appeared exceptionally calm, as if he'd been expecting them. He took her to the office next to his own. It was where Lucas worked and was a big room. At that moment, all the higher-ups were there. They were surprised to see Jade, as Dario had never brought a woman there before, but no one said anything. They maintained their composure and continued to do their work as if nothing had happened. Jade glanced at them expressionlessly. The place didn't look at all like a CEO's office. She raised her eyebrows inquiringly. Do you work here? Dario nodded calmly, but Jade had a sense that something was wrong. She felt instinctively that Dario was lying to her but couldn't tell exactly how. Everyone was backing him up, including Caroline, so there was nothing she could do. She took Dario to one side. She had already tried her best to remain calm, but now she asked him awkwardly, Did Miranda come for you just now, or did you go and look for her? Did you see her downstairs? Dario asked. She nodded. Yes, she said she was with you in your office, and that there were only the two of you. No matter how much I squint, there appear to be more than two people here. Is this really your office? So you're angry because you're jealous. Dario was grinning now. Do you believe that woman? Of course I'm jealous. She's beautiful. Any man would want her. And what's more, she saved your life once. Dario smiled again. What have you been eating that's left such a bad taste in your mouth? How can you be so jealous? Don't tell me the truth then. I'm going home. I don't care anymore. I don't care which woman you're with. Jade turned around angrily, but she found that she was floating in the air. She realized that Dario had lifted her off the ground. Ah! She squealed. What are you doing? Dario lowered his head to hers and kissed her in front of everyone. I'll take you home myself to see what's wrong with you. He carried her into the elevator and all the way to the garage. He tossed her into his car, and 10 minutes later, they were at their apartment. From the car, he carried Jade to the bedroom as fast as he could. A fire was burning in his body, and there was only one way to extinguish it. Jade was speechless and helpless. She could think of nothing but Dario. Every time he used passion to explain himself, she was powerless to resist. In any case, she didn't want to. Episode 500. A Tense Lunch. The next day, Dario made breakfast for Jade, packed her bags, and took her to the cemetery where a memorial ceremony was being held for his grandmother, Helen. The atmosphere at the graveyard was heavy, but Dario's relatives seemed happy to see Jade there and welcomed her warmly. Afterward, Dario and Jade went to the foster villa for lunch. Jade was looking forward to a relaxed meal after the memorial. During lunch, Walter stared at Jade's stomach and reflected on his desire for Dario and Jade to have a child. He noticed that Jade wasn't eating, and he passed her some food.
"Please, eat some more, Jade. You need to keep your energy up."
Then he glared at Dario and said,
"You shouldn't let your wife get so thin. You've been together for a long time. Why haven't you gotten her pregnant yet?"
Jade lowered her head and blushed. Diane noticed that she felt uncomfortable and rushed to her defense. "Grandpa, they haven't even had a wedding yet. If Jade got pregnant, people would talk." Walter looked at Diane frostily.
"If anyone dares to gossip about the proprietary of the foster family, they'll have me to deal with."
"Anyway," Diane continued, "they can't have a baby while they're using contraception." Walter's face turned red with rage as he slammed his cutlery down on the table.
"What the hell do you mean by that?"
he shouted. Seeing his grandfather's temper get out of control, Dario took Jade's hand and stood up. Jade got up with him, too embarrassed to meet Walter's gaze as he glared at her, and Dario led her away from the table.
"How dare you walk away from me when I'm talking to you?"
Walter asked, his voice trembling. Debbie looked at Walter and said, "Grandpa, you've scared Jade away now. I was looking forward to chatting with her today." As she spoke, she got up and also left the table. Walter watched them go and then looked at Diane and said,
"The most important thing for a young woman to do is to get married and have children. You make sure you remember that."
Diane quietly put down her knife and fork, stood up and said, "I'm not that hungry anymore," and walked out of the room. Walter looked around frowning.
"What is it with young people these days?"
he asked.
"I just want to have a great-grandchild. It's the normal thing for a young couple to want to do."
Dario took Jade to his room on the top floor. She looked at him feeling sad and guilty. "Dario, we shouldn't have left the table like that. Your grandpa and your parents will start to think badly of me." He stroked her cheek gently and said, "Don't worry. They won't think badly of you. They all think you're lovely, and so do I." "I suppose I have noticed they're more accepting of me," she thought. "Even his grandmother Isabel has been quite nice to me recently." "What shall we do now?" Jade asked, happy at the thought of them having some free time together. "We should do something fun, of course," Dario replied with a mischievous look in his eyes. He touched her ear gently with his hand and leaned forward to kiss her. Jade pushed him away, her face red. "Dario, it's still broad daylight and we're in your family home with your parents," she complained. He smiled and took her through to his kitchen. It was well stocked with fresh ingredients. Dario took an apron off the wall and put it on his wife. He then took a knife and started peeling and chopping vegetables. Jade looked confused. "So the fun thing you want to do together is cook?" she asked, with a surprised expression. "Yes," he replied. "You didn't eat anything down there, so I'll make you something nice. You can help if you like." "What did you think I meant?" he asked, with an innocent expression. Jade blushed again and said, "Oh, I wasn't sure, really." He leaned toward her conspiratorially and whispered, "I think I know what you want to do, but we have to make sure that you have lots of energy for that, so you need to eat something first." She glared at him and began to whisk some eggs to vent her anger. "He's teasing me," she thought. "I'm happy with just the food, thank you," she said. "So why don't you keep your filthy mind on the cooking?" Jade thought about what Walter had said. I can understand why he feels the way he does, she thought. But we're just not ready to have children yet. Maybe in a year's time things will be different. Yes, in a year, whatever is happening, I'll have a baby. The next day after breakfast, Dario drove Jade to the airport to fly with her to Los Angeles. "You work too hard," Jade said. "You take on too much between looking after me and doing all your work. You don't need to fly to LA tonight after you finish." "Don't worry about me," Dario replied as he kissed her on the lips. "I'm like Superman. I never get tired." Then he began the long journey back to Washington.